we doing? Just kidding. That's my my Andy from Team Marine. He's gonna yell at me for that one. He can be like, "That's copyrighted."
That was
Fool.
pretty good. Yeah,
Hey,
that was pretty good though.
got teeth though. That's the big difference. He ain't got no teeth, and he's got even less hair than I do, which is really saying something. But he's a Suzuki genius, so I got to respect the fire out of him. Anywho, Nate, how the heck are you, my friend?
I'm doing well, doing well. Back
All right.
starting to feel better. Been
That's,
fishing a little bit, so
yeah.
we're on the up and up.
Yeah, we may have to share. We may have to save you sharing that story about your new hand tiller on your outboard until after, because I feel like that's going to be a good one. And I want to get to the guest we got on tonight. Because it's awesome. Our guest is Scott Palmer, the Bass Tank. I mean, he is the Bass Tank, the dude who founded it, started it, still runs the show now. And I think when you think of, it's weird. It's weird because when I was little, fishing just meant riding my bike down to Mr. Miles Pond with a rod on each handle, either crisscross like this, like holding them both, or just shooting straight out and then riding all the way down to the pond and trying to see what the heck I could get to bite. 2026 bass fishing, especially as it relates to competitive bass fishing, I think if you're not thinking of, this goofy thing, if you ain't thinking of like Koikis and whatever, you're thinking of technology. And if you think of bass technology, you are undoubtedly thinking of the Bass Tank. Am I wrong about that, Nate?
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on. That's
Yeah.
like I said, the Bass Tank's they've been around for a while, and they kind of started the whole like electronic install craze. Now there's all companies all over doing it, but they've been killing it for a while now.
Yeah, killing it for a while. I mean, I got my Livescope set up from Bass Tank. You got yours from Bass Tank. I mean,
I got mine from the Bass Tank.
The thing they do really well is they have incredible customer service. So if you have questions, they're going to respond quick, in a hurry, which is honestly humongous. And then number two that I think they do better than most places is they can get you sort of like a package deal, like right on the homepage where like you buy this one click and it's everything you need for your setup. When I got Livescope on my Legend, I knew it was dope. I knew it was, a sonar that looks out in front, and that's about where it ended. I didn't know I needed a black box. I didn't know where to run the black box. I didn't know I needed a little kill switch for it, whatever. And I got one package on the Bass Tank's website and then talked to some of their people, and they're like, just make sure you do this and this, like really specific insights that would have cost me time and probably money. They kill it. And then also on the Bass Tank, it's cool because they have like everything. They're not just Garmin Livescope sales. Like they have everything technology wise. They have trolling motors. They have like foot pads for your trolling motor. They have daggum like koozies and key floats. Like they kind of run the whole board of what you need for your bass boat in 2026. So to have Scott Palmer on, I'm pretty excited, pretty honored to have him on, hear his life story. And then of course I do want to talk about Livescope too. Is it worth it? Is it that different? Is the distance thing different? Is the gain difference? Is the target separation, which is I feel like target separation, I feel like that's like the same thing as parabolic bend. Like if you want to sound real smart and you're talking about a rod, you say, oh, it's got a nice parabolic bend here. And if you want to sound smart and you're talking about Livescope, you say, oh, the target separation allows me to have a higher definition of contrast between. And it's all true, I'm sure. But like, I want to talk about all that nerdery. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, so it'll be good. Before we get to it, let's just let's run through the details. If you don't know, Tackling Tacos, we do be on that social. That's on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. It's just at Tackling Tacos. Our website is Tackle and Tacos, A-N-D spelled out, tackleandtacos.com. Merch store, this dope hat that I'm wearing right now with like the little PVC patch on it. A hat, not exactly the one Nate's wearing. That's like a custom made dealie, but something like that, like the Richardson with the circle logo kind of offset. Shirts, sticker packs, like the little sticker sheets, old school. It's kind of dope. We are sponsored by Nate. Walk us through some of these sponsors, and then let's bring the man in.
Yeah, presenting sponsor, of course, is Grizzly Coolers. Code WCB for 15% off of all things Grizzly. I think except for blinds, right? Which are super dope.
Yeah, everything else. So yeah, coolers are expensive. That can save junk.
Yeah, no doubt. So Leopold Performance Optics and their performance eyewear team, Denali Rods, Moldy Marine, Northland Insurance Services, and of course the boys at WCB, Working Class Bow Hunters, part of their podcast network.
Yeah, that's it.
I think that's it.
That's it. So one real quick thing to remind you of, if you didn't know, we are trying to get to 1,000, which I know in the world of YouTube is not a ton for us. That's a milestone that we're getting close to. We're at like 930 right now. So when we get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, we're giving away a brand new 20-quart Grizzly cooler, completely stuffed full of baits, a brand new pair of Leupold sunglasses, a new Denali rod that you get to pick out on denalifishing.com, so you can get what you need. If you need a long, skinny, like, minnow shaking rod, or if you need like something with some backbone for flipping, whatever you want to pick out on denalifishing.com, you can do that. With the cooler, we're going to also throw in a brand new Shimano bait cast reel. Jeremy from Moldy's Marine made a custom pad that goes on top of the cooler. Big Mouth Fishing, who's not a sponsor, but just a friend, somebody who was on a couple weeks ago, he threw in a couple like industrial size packs of baits, and that's all going to go shipped to your door for free at random when we hit 1,000 subscribers. We're just going to put all the names in a hat, old school style, like G37, like bingo. You know what I'm saying? Pull it out, and it's going to get to your door for free. So make sure you follow us on YouTube. All you got to do is follow us, subscribe, whatever, and then send us like on social, like a screenshot showing that you follow us. So Nate, anything else before we bring in?
Nothing I can think of. Yeah, I'm ready to get to talk to Scott. I've got some questions myself. Maybe something he can help us out with, and yeah, just excited for this one. This is gonna be a good one.
Yeah, for sure. So on YouTube, if you're watching right now, the Bass Tank made it easy. Their YouTube, their Instagram, and their Facebook is at the Bass Tank, BASSTANK. And then their website is just thebasstank.com, which again, not because he's on the show right now. It's just that's how they operate. Customer service is literally second to none. And to me, that makes a difference. I would rather pay more, and they don't have higher prices at all. But I'm just saying in general, I would rather pay more for something if I know I'm going to get some support on the back end of it. And they just kill it there. So make sure you follow them. Where is it? There. I couldn't remember what the sound effects were. I want to make sure I hit the right one. We bring him in. So anyway, coming all Oklahoma. Pumped to have him on the show. Talk all things fishing, his life, all things Bass Tank. Show some love to Mr. Scott Palmer.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Hey brother.
Hey.
How the heck are you?
Man, doing all right. And I'm taking it easy this evening, if you can call it that. Owning your own business, as you guys know, if you're hustling and grinding, it never stops. 5 o'clock means nothing, So I've still got some emails to catch up on and some work to do. Honestly, and this isn't, I don't want anyone to think of this as me complaining. I actually really enjoy it. But like now the work day is over, the phone has stopped ringing. I can answer still emails. I still answer customer emails in the evening, when they reach out to us and I see them. But this is when I do the most work, just because the phone's not ringing, and, focus on the customers during the day and then everything else I need to do in the evening. But that's just the life I live, and I'm okay with it. I love it. I can't help it. Someone told me, do something you love and you'll never work a day in your life. And don't get me wrong, there's days when I really question my own sanity. I think most fishermen do. For sure. Man, I love it. I love it. It's just it's one of those things that I got the bug. That's all I can say.
Still have the bug.
Yeah, and here's the funny part about it. I think a lot about how I got into fishing, because I grew up like most people, going to pond, drowning that purple with a little pink worm. Did you guys have that, or was that an Oklahoma Southern thing? I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That was like the staple bait, right? Like you had multiple packs of those. And I grew up drowning that in a pond or in the creek, like everybody else. But I did not fish on a lake until I was actually a junior, I think, in high school. Wow. A buddy of mine moved. He became a friend of mine. Basically, he moved in, and we went out on his grandparents' pontoon boat.
Okay.
And here I was with my little Shakespeare 6-foot spinning rod.
Yeah.
and he is out there with his bait caster making these casts, these schooling spots. Yeah. And I can't even get close to him. I'm like, how on earth are you throwing that far? And he just looked at me like, what are you using? I'm like, I don't know. Yeah. So I went to college and I did my internship down in Dallas, and I said, man, I'm right here. I want to go hire a guide to take me on Lake Fork. The famed, like, I'm starting to catch the bug. And we went down there and we were sight fishing. And it's the first time I really learned. I never knew that there was pitching and flipping. Again, I grew up hunting. My dad taught me hunting. And it's not that my dad didn't teach me fishing, but definitely hunting. And so I didn't know the different strains of bass. A bass is a bass. You know, you got smallmouth and you got largemouth. Well, I didn't realize there was 15 different variations of smallmouth, you know, Tennessee River, Northerns. But I remember the guy took the time to show me, you know, how to flip and how to pitch. And of course, it doesn't hurt when you set the hook on a 7-pounder. And his name was Jeff Gunn at Lake Fork. Yeah, I remember him. I don't know if he's still doing it or not. He may be retired now. But he took the time to teach that to me. And I remember that day I drove to local tackle shop and got my first bait caster, because at this point, I'm still using spinning gear. And Abu Garcia 6500 series, because I couldn't thumb the little ones. Yeah, you know how big that is? That's a catfish rod. That's a catfish rod. Sure. You know, and I put that on a 6'6". I believe it was a Falcon rod. Falcons is local here. Broken Arrow is kind of when they were really getting started.
Yep.
And this thing looked out of place. It looked out of place, you know. And I remember the guy looking at me going, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I don't know," but my thumb could fit. Yeah. And I caught so many fish on that. And then the bug really happened. And then I found the Shimano Bantam, the CU 200s.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, that's when they were like 109, 119. And, you know, that's a long time ago, wasn't it? And I was buying a new reel about every week. I not married, no kids, you know, you just go. And then I amassed a whole treasure trove. And my dad, who is an accountant, by the way, told me, he said, "You can't write this stuff off. You can't write this stuff off. This is a hobby." So which is kind of funny. And I don't mean to jump around here, but it was really funny because Dad always told me, "Show me how you're going to make a living fishing. Show me how you're going to make a living fishing. Then you can write this off." So when I started the bass tank that first year, I went and put my expenses down. I said, "Here you go. This is how I did it." And he looked at me and goes, "Okay, now you can start writing stuff off. Now you can start off your fishing."
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's for sure. I love that. Well, let's just that's a great start. Let's jump into the bass tank stuff then. What I've read online, what I've heard about you, and I've heard it a little bit. Most of the time, like when you're on BTL or other stuff, I've listened to you on, watched you on. It's usually very specific to like technology, and I want to get in on that. Sure, but I also want to know what truth is there and what I read about the bass tank and I feel like for almost all companies, this is a far cry, but I used to work at Best Buy way back in the day doing like car audio install. And that started off as like a mom and pop shop up in Minnesota and then exploded. You know, like I feel like a lot of really good companies start with a pretty small genesis, like a pretty small blip. Is it true that you were just essentially fixing a buddy's install that was done wrong and then that was the start and went from there? How did that happen?
Yeah, pretty much. There were a few things to it, you know, the name, the bass tank. People say, "How do you come up with that?" And long story short, you know, I had a partner way back when, everyone knows that. And when we were trying to decide exactly what we're going to do, because we had a couple different, you know, ideas for the fishing industry. And with my background, you know, with contacts with production and manufacturing and the engineering, like I knew how to get it built and get it to market. And he had some contacts in the fishing industry to kind of maybe help get it out there. So it kind of made sense. And so we were sitting there, so what are we going to call ourselves? And we kind of chuckled, like we go to these shows and you've been to a bunch of shows and no doubt there's guys in the back row that have a great product, but they're in the back row. They're a row most people don't even walk down. They're pretty much behind the curtain. Mm-hmm. And those guys will never see the light of day, unfortunately, because they're so stuck in this great product, they don't know how to get it out there. And we said, you know, we feel like we could partner with these guys and basically bring this to market, you know, along with our ideas. And so we're kind of almost like we were going to do similar to the Shark Tank, you know, where they go on, they pitch ideas and things like that. Yeah. And we kind of laughed like, we're going to be the bass tank, you know, and it was like, that's actually kind of funny.
Yeah.
So that's how we started. And then in any good business, you pivot when you see opportunity. And essentially what happened was I had a buddy's boat in my shop And I had never seen a Garmin up to this point. I'd seen Lowrance, I'd seen Humminbird. Garmin was still really coming new to the scene. I'd never seen a Garmin before, but I know a bad install when I see one. And he had a big event, and he was having problems. I'm like, dude, get your boat to my shop. Let me see what's going on. And so I start taking this apart, and I about cried because I'm like, dude, I don't know who touched this, but this is bad. Like, I need to de-rig this whole thing and let me start back, because my buddies always brought their stuff to me anyway. I've always worked on my own boats. And so this was just kind of a pivot. I'm just helping a buddy out type deal. And sitting there, and then it hit me like, this is a problem. This is a problem. This is not, it came from a marina, and I'm not going to name them because I'm not here to burn anybody, anything like that, but it came from a marina. And I'm like, this is what everybody does. This is what 95% of the shops out there do. It's just good enough. They know black and red wire goes here, and this looks like it plugs in here. Have no idea how the stuff works. And that's what it was. And I said, man, there's got to be a better way. Like, I don't like having problems on the water. I can't imagine someone else does. And so next thing you know, we kind of pivot that direction. And I had a day job, and I would get home, and there'd be a boat sitting in my driveway. I'd roll up my garage or my shop door, and I would roll it in there, and I'd work till midnight, 2 o'clock to try to get it done. And if I didn't, it'd still be there. The next morning I would leave. I'd have to pull it. And this is how crazy it is. I would call a customer like at 6 o'clock in the morning, leave a message. Hey, your boat's ready. You can come get it. And they would literally come to my house, pick up their boat, call and pay. That's how trusting we were early on.
Wow.
That they would call and pay us, and they could, we would take some deposit to make sure they didn't run off. But and then it got to the point where word gets out, and then my boat got shoved into the corner, and stuff got piled on it because I needed more space in my own shop to put 2 boats in there. And dude, I didn't fish for the first 6 months of the business because if Saturday and Sunday were my days to get multiple boats done. That was the time of the week that I could, because I also traveled for my job sometimes. I might get a phone call. I've got a boat in the shop, and I get a phone call. I'm gonna be gone for 3 days. So it was sketchy, to say the least. And then we hired a guy, and it was funny because I work from home, and this table right behind me here, I would be sitting here working, and he would be on the phone with a customer on my couch, and he'd look over at me as I'm listening, and I would like mouth to him what to say to the customer to tell him this is the question he's asking, and then he would turn around and print all the labels off in my house, and he would pile them up in his truck and take them to UPS or FedEx, wherever, to ship them. One of my rooms, the joy, again, I'm single, not married, so I've got spare bedrooms, if you will. One of them to this day, it still looks like a warehouse. That's where we kept our inventory, in my own house.
Wow.
So yeah, that's humble beginnings, to say the least. And I don't think my shop has ever recovered.
Yeah. Let me ask you a specific question then. What was the setup on that dude's boat, and did you get it running right?
Well, which one? Because there were a bunch of them, on his boat. Yeah. So this was his first go with the 7000 series. And this was Panoptics. This was before the LBS 32 Livescope. This was Panoptics. But it just, man, it was bad. Things weren't networked, and this unit would turn on, and that would make this one turn off. And it was just like not the right size wire, anything like that. That's one of the biggest things that people didn't understand was forever when you had a little 5-inch in-dash, voltage really didn't matter. I mean, it mattered, but it wasn't super critical. It just needed to turn on and run.
Yeah.
But as the units got more and more powerful, requiring more power, that became a concern from a wire standpoint. It took the boat manufacturers a while. They finally all started kind of getting onto it. They're 2 to 3 years typically to shift on a trend. And that's really interesting, because I had several conversations with them at boat shows, and I'm like, when are you guys going to start doing this? And they're like, oh, we're not going to do that. I'm like, okay, more money for me, because I'm going to be rigging it, fix it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's wild. I used to work at a marine install place, and our 2 main kind of certified riggers, our 2 installers, they were brilliant, and they've been doing it both for 20 something years. And they wouldn't put it on Facebook or anything, but they had a whole album on each one of their phones of like just the craziest installs. One of the guys, when I was there, one of the guys came in. He goes, "I don't know what it is. I just got 2 new Explorer 12s on the dash, and every once in a while they will just like when I'm on the water, like the return, it just looks weird. Like it gets fuzzy. It kind of goes in, goes out, whatever. Like everything else works. The screen works, but like the actual image from the sonar goes in and out, whatever."
Yeah.
So they're like, "Yeah, we'll get into it." That's the other thing. I'm sure you get this too. When I worked at that place, people always want you to diagnose their stuff on the phone. And you're like, dude, I don't know. There's 30,000 potential issues here. We got to look at it. I'm sorry, you know, whatever. Anyway, who brings it in, and the place that installed it for him put not 2, but 3 screws through the transducer cable as they were trying to like stick it into like the back.
Yep.
And kind of I'm like, oh, like I'm talking about dead nuts through the transducer cable. And so just the craziest simple stuff, like don't screw through the transducer cable. Like you shouldn't have to coach that, but you see it.
I've got what I call my bucket of shame, and it's things that we've pulled out, and it started as a cup of shame, and it has now transitioned to a bucket of shame. And it mainly consists of people using crimp connections and then crimping the insulation.
Oh, not the actual,
The actual wire. I'm like, this was never going to work, you know, and there's a specific boat brand that I'm not going to name because, again, I'm not here to burn people. But I know that if a new one comes in, I'm going to go check their trim.
Because
the guy who does it must be the same guy, or he's training the guy who's replacing him, because they literally like to crimp on the insulation. And I'm like, dude, did someone teach you that this is what you do? You know, or they'll leave, you know, this much wire sticking out of it. You know, it's bad. It's bad.
Logical stuff.
And,
are you an anti-electrical tape guy?
I am.
Yeah, me too. When I see electrical tape, I'm like, oh, did you cut corners, homie? Somebody cut corners.
I'm not. I don't. We have it. The only time we use electrical tape is when we're taping up to make a wire pull. That's it. Not beyond that. That's not for fastening. That's not for cable management. That's just, you know, it kills me, the guys that put electrical tape on the trolling motors for transducers coming. I just can't stand it for numerous reasons. Sure. You know, we use Velcro. I started using Velcro a long time ago because there's some cool cable management style stuff out now. I mean, I'm not going to act like there's not, but Velcro is the simplest, cheapest. And what I love about Velcro is if you wrap it correctly, it will hold it very securely. It won't move this way, and it won't let the cable slide up and down. But if you adjust your trolling motor, which we used to, I don't know if we do as much anymore, you know, with the advent of forward facing, most people stay off the bank, you know, but I remember having a pool noodle, right, to put underneath there, and ratchet straps to keep your trolling motor down so you could go chop through skinny water.
Yep.
Well, if you had a transducer and you tried to loosen that and raise you're cutting electrical tape, you're cutting zip ties, you're cutting everything else. With Velcro, you just go slide it down, and we get done. And so I've always liked it. It's just really, really clean.
Yeah. And you don't want to use zip ties on your transducer cables, going pulling through stuff and breaking stuff on the inside, like cinching it down too tight. Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. My favorite, I saw a guy, you know what a zip tie gun is?
Yeah.
I saw a guy literally was doing a tech video on how to install, and he got a zip tie gun out, and you could see the cable just bulging. I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. We had just on this funny subject, we had a guy that you talked about screws through the cable. Yeah. What about a screw through the transducer from the factory?
Oh, wow.
So a side imaging transducer on the back of the boat. Yeah. Guy was like, man, my left side just seems to disappear. It'll be there, then all of a sudden it just goes black. And he's a good customer of ours. And I said, man, let me take this out to the water and see what it is. So I said, it sounds like a transducer is bad. I'm like, dude, it's brand new. I'm like, okay. And I'm like, if it is, we can warranty, no big deal. So I take it out there, drop it in, sure enough. So I take a new transducer, drop it over the side. Yeah, perfectly. It's the transducer. It's not the unit's transducer. So I get it back, and right there on the ramp, I start taking the screws out. I noticed this one. I'm like, that doesn't look like the little screws that's included from the factory. So I undo it. It's a self-drilling screw.
Oh my
Gosh.
Self-tap.
Don't know what. I don't know what they had decided to do, but they had ran it squarely into that. And I was like, okay. So I took a picture of it, and it was a big deal. You know, it was a Garmin transducer. Garmin said, Scott, we'll take care of you. We're going to get with the, you know, OEM and make you right. Wow. So if you'll just do a favor and take care of the customer. I'm like, yeah. So we did it. It just, wow. So we've seen some things, you know.
Yeah, I'd say we could talk on this all day long. And here's
we could.
God is like in 2026, and I think it's been like this for a little while, but you don't have to be an expert to be an expert with YouTube. You know what I'm saying? Like any full camera can be like, and here's how you want to do it. Like you were saying, like that zip tie gun, and you're just in the background, like, oh my God, stop, please stop, please stop. And it's just cutting through the cord. I had a dude one time. This is the last one, and I'll be done. I swear. I had a dude one time who I can't remember what the specificity. I can't remember what it was. Why he couldn't make his transducer cable reach to his console, and it was like an older boat, which I have no hate on older boats. I love actually when guys take old. Do cool new stuff to him. I think that's the coolest deal. And it was like an old John boat, and he was fixing it up, like he's putting C deck on it and doing like a little bass boat conversion. It was pretty rad. Smart dude too, which is the funny thing about it, because this is not a smart move. So he could not figure out how to get. I think maybe it was that it didn't have like the tubes for rigging and you know, like running. Yeah. So he just cut his transducer cable like in half and then was going to extend it like. And he gets in there and he goes, I just don't know if I can do this or not. I'm like, well, there's like 790 little. Oh, you can't just hell out of it. It's going to be this big around by the time you get done, because there's 400, you know, connections going through you need to do. I was like, buy a new transducer. I mean, you're pretty effed at this point. They're not, you know, they don't disconnect off the transducer and then go like it's one long.
Yeah.
I felt bad for you. Dude, you don't have a choice, man. I'm like, you just screwed yourself.
Yeah, it's amazing how some people come to, and I'm not bashing people, but you sometimes just say, how did you come to that conclusion that was the way to go? Yeah. You know, I'm not going to pretend I know everything, but I know when I don't know to stop and let me do some research or ask someone who might know, you know? So it's just, we hear some really funny stories, and usually it's hat in hand, like, sorry, I did this, you know, save me. Like, well, you hear some bad news, you know, but we can fix it, but it's going to cost you a little bit of money, unfortunately. So
yeah. Sometimes it's better as an installer to start from scratch than try to undo redo.
It is.
What they did.
So much easier.
Yeah, they don't know how they did stuff. And one thing we would get all the time too is, it's not exactly the same, but on like 36-volt trolling motors, like people would run them just like red to red to red, black to black to black, you know, and they like, why is this? And I'm like, well, because you're getting like a really big 12-volt here because you did it all wrong.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. Well, let's get off the funniness, although it's fun, man. Let's jump into, if you're okay with it, Scott. Can we talk Livescope to the new transducer, all that fun stuff? With you being kind of an industry insider, I know you've known about this for a bit. Let me ask this question first, and then Nate, you can jump in whenever you want. I know you got a bunch of questions.
Yeah.
Is the difference that what's the word I want to say? Is it that obvious for guys who aren't on the water 200 days a year using 16-inch Garmin units or whatever? Like, is it that big of a difference for normal fishermen?
Yeah. So one thing I always tell my customers is, you're going to get transparency from me. Good, bad, ugly, you're going to get transparency from me. And here's what I can tell you. When I dropped my production model in the water for the first time, not changing any settings, sitting right there, because I had set out, because I was going to do a comparison video for everybody, because that's what everyone was clamoring for. I said, okay, let me go out there and do this. Drop in the water, I was like, I don't like this. I don't like this. And that was my initial gut reaction. Now that is literally dropping the trolling motor in the water, like, this is, but I can also remember going back to the 34, doing the exact same thing.
Sure.
Because I was expecting what the 32, I took what I saw from 32, and was expecting this huge flip with a 34. Likewise, with the 42, I was expecting the same thing. And it's like, okay, hang on, Scott. Remember with the 34, you went out and you got on the water with it, and it took you, an hour. Now, I do think the 34 was a little more forgiving as far as setting up. It was closer to 32. I had to kind of unlearn the 34 to really start dialing in the 42. And so that is going to be the biggest, hardest thing for people. The 44, I do believe, has its place, but if you're in 15 foot of water or less, the 44 is not for you. It is those guys that are fishing those herring lakes. If you're up north and you're needing to look long range out there, dude, I saw a bait splash at 130, 140 feet. And I'm going to tell you right now, the average guy can't accurately throw that. I can't accurately cast that distance consistently. But I saw a big fish out there. I said, I don't know if it's 6 or 10, but it's big. Throw the old minnow out there, and he came and ate it. He ended up being 6.5 pounds.
Wow.
But I can also tell you that at 130 feet, the first cast I made was 105, and I thought I would just bombed it. Yeah. That is a long, long way, you know.
That's a long.
But is there a big difference in the 42 and the 34? It is, but it's not out of the box difference. You have to you have to unlearn some things from the 34. You know, I run my gain on my 34, 67 to 73. I'd run my color gain up there, you know, in the 80 to 85. I like the burnings. I did like a hotter screen. Sometimes that gain would get, the regular gain would get up to 75, 78 even. I mean, I didn't mind the clutter. I would start adding some color limit. You know, at first I didn't like color limit because you could go too far. With some updates, I started seeing that would soften some of the targets as far as the separation a little bit. You know, like when a fish was against a tree or on the bottom, I could see it a little bit better if I just put a little bit of color limit in there. With the 42, I found that color limit's back at 0. My color gain is running like 90, 95, and I'm not sure that I'm not going to go to 100. Like I'm still doing some fine tweaks to it. But my regular gain, I'm running 54, 53, 54.
Wow.
So huge swing, right?
Yeah.
The other thing that I hear people say, and you guys have seen it online, oh, the bait tracking sucks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to hurt some feelings with this one. I'm going to hurt some feelings. Just get ready. Ready? Here's the hot take. People don't realize how inaccurate they are with their casting until they get a 42.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I'll believe
because I can track a bait. I can see my bait splash. Now, not to 100 feet. Not to 100 feet. Beyond 80 to 85 feet, it starts getting pretty difficult. It gets kind of lost. Things start stretching. Mm-hmm. Inside that 80-foot mark, I can watch a 3-inch minnow. I can watch a koiki. I can watch a 6-inch swim bait. I can watch a 3/4 ounce jig. Just whatever I'm throwing, I can watch it come back. Now, is it harder between 80 and 50 feet to really pick it up? It is. I'm not going to act like it's not. But the reason being is it's much more proportional. Like before with a 34, a 3-inch minnow with a big, large mouth or small mouth up there would look very similar in size.
Sure.
It would stretch it. And so like, okay, here it comes. Now it's because of that detail, it's smaller. And so it's much more subtle on the water. I saw an absolute giant. It's going to be my favorite story to tell. And I'm so mad at myself that I didn't reach out there and hit the screen record.
Yeah.
Range out to 85 feet. And about 65 feet, I was fishing some standing timber. There was this giant fish underneath this limb, just suspended. I could see his tail just moving like this. I could see his pectoral fins doing this right there. I could make that out. Now, this is no doubt a double digit. This is not a 2-pounder. This is a giant.
Yeah.
Throw the old stupid urchin bait out there that I've still not figured out exactly how to be consistent. Everyone acts like it's real easy, and it's not, I don't think, or I'm just doing it wrong. Yeah. Okay. Whatever. You know, just everyone says, you know, rig it with a single hook, no frog hook, no treble hook. Like I don't know the right answer. I played with all of it, but I just don't get to spend as much time on the water honing techniques as much as I used to. But anyway, hits the water. This fish comes just chasing. I'm getting excited. Yeah. But before I did that, I reached down with a 34 because I still haven't. I've got on the spy pole. I've got 42, 34 sitting side by side. Turn transmit off on the 42, turn transmit on 34, and I look at it. And that fish just kind of blended into the tree. I can tell he was there, but that came from thousands of hours of looking at standing timber and knowing what's a fish and what's not. And this was a giant. But then I went right back to 42. It was like, poof, fish. And I was just like, and then the fisherman in me took over. Instead of hitting screen capture and saving that image to show everyone, I cast it at him, and I shouldn't have. I should have recorded it so people could have seen it, and I'm just mad because I didn't even catch the fish.
Yeah.
But he followed it from 65 feet to like 30 feet. And unlike with the 34, where that fish started real big and he just got smaller as he got closer, the fish stayed the same size the whole way in. And so there is a big difference. What you see at those longer ranges is what you're going to get up close. I'm seeing 2-pounders swim around, and I'm actually seeing them swim. Used to, the bigger the fish, you'd start looking for that tail kick. I've got a body here and a little bit of separation, that tail kick. That's really where I knew that's a giant fish. Now I'm seeing that. It's fooled me a couple times. I'm like, that must be a huge fish. I can see the tail kick. No, you're seeing just the fish, because now you're just seeing a fish.
Yeah.
The other is like small balls of bait. And this, I think for the average guy, this is going to resonate. How many times with your 34 did you throw at a small ball of bait because they were tightly packed, swimming, and you never could get them to snake or anything like that? It just looked like a fish swimming together.
Yeah.
With the 42, it's much softer, and you can kind of see the separation between. I'm not saying you can count individual little bitty baby fish, but it doesn't pop out into a blob that makes you think that's a fish. You're like, oh, that's a ball of bait. I'm not going to mess with that. And trust me, I've thrown at them several times thinking it was just a soft return. The reason why it's a soft return is because they're actually spread out, as opposed to the 34 that would read that as one big entity. So at the end of the day, the 42 is definitely better. Do I think there's room for improvement that's going to come with software updates? Absolutely it does. But out of the box right now, I can tell you that as a consumer, I would give up my 34 right now to have the 42. Seeing fish in brush piles, that's the other one. Seeing them in there, not just saying, okay, I think that's a blob, I think that's a fish, and not knowing if that's where a root ball comes together or if that's a fish. Saying, like, I can literally see that fish sitting there moving. I can make out the shape of a fish inside that brush pile. Yeah, I'm going to take that. I've got more fish in the first, I guess I've had it not quite a month yet, but I've caught more fish in the first 3 weeks, we'll call it, than I did with the 34. As far as like attributing it to this, like, okay, hey. And so, and I don't think I'm done dialing it in yet.
That's really good. Yeah.
You
got really specific sentences there that I think were really good. Yeah, that's great.
That's awesome. Yeah. So your time on the water nowadays, as busy as the Bass Tank is it primarily product testing and, reviewing stuff and trying to learn it for the customer? Or do you still get plenty of time to fish yourself?
It's kind of a mix. It's kind of a mix. I mean, it's primarily what I typically do is if I go to the water, I may say, hey, we've got to go get some content. I've got to go do some product testing, but I need to get some content, some educational stuff, because that's what we're known for. And I want to continue to be known for that. Is nothing drives me nuts if you spend your money with me and then you take a product and you don't know how to use it. Like, I kind of, sorry, I'm going to circle way back. I actually did a market study a market analysis before I started the Bass Tank. And it told me that people were using 5% of what their units at that time were capable of. They had no idea what 95% of their units could do.
Wow.
And that bothered me. Now, no one's going to use 100%. They're just not. Inland fishing, very few people are going to use a radar. There's a few people, but if you use radar, there's other things you're not going to use. But I wanted to change that from 5% to 50, 60%, or even if you only use 5%, you still knew the other 95% was there. And the only way you can do that is through education. I heard you mention the customer support. That was my big, like I said, if I'm going to do this, I want to have the best customer service in the industry. And I'm going to lose a lot of sleep because of it, but I don't care. I don't want to do this halfway. I want my name associated with great customer service and knowledge. And I think we've done a pretty good job, but I'm not done yet. It's not like, oh, we're here, this is as good as it gets. That's what it boils down to. And I've got a great team that believes in that same, because I can't do this myself. You can't fake it. I'm going to tell you that right now, you can't fake it. We've had some competitors try to basically mimic our mantra, and it takes about 2 or 3 months, and then they stop using that slogan because they realize how much effort that is. And because you're either passionate about it or you're not. You know, it's a toxic trait. You know, my dad tells me, son, you got to cut it off at some point. You got to have a life. And I'm like, this is my life. You know, I find ways to make do, but, and I got off topic there. I apologize, but
oh no,
you know, when I get on the water, I do content and I say, I'm going to fish for an hour. Maybe I need to fish for an hour because sometimes I don't have the words for the content. I'm thinking about it of what I want to do, you know, or I'll be fishing and I'll turn around and I'll tell my videographer, all right, cool, let's go. And, I'm very fortunate to have the videographer I do. She's great. She knows just to sit down and shut up, you know, sometimes to let me kind of get in the groove. And then she knows when she needs to push me, like, we've got to have this. And, you know, we came here for this. And so, but I'll get out there and I'll go fish. Sometimes I'm like, I'm just fishing today, but those days are rare. Usually what happens, I say, I'm just fishing. And then thinking something like, oh, this would be a good thing to do a video on. And boom, I do a video. And sometimes those are the best videos because they're very, very organic, you know, and they're coming from a place of fisherman, not guy making content. And I think those are two distinct, different things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
certainly. Do you you get asked a lot of questions at the ramp on the water? You have to, right?
I do. Yeah. Yeah.
You probably can't put without being like, hey, tell me about that LVS 1230.
You know, I do. I get people, you know, I used to fish tournaments and I enjoyed it. I thought at one point I wanted to do something a little bit more on the professional level. And I realized it was probably 10 years ago. And I realized, you know, this is just not the life that I want. And I'm not dogging the professionals, the guy who do that's a choice, you know, and everybody has to make a choice for themselves. I said, this isn't what I want to do. Just the amount of time I already spent a lot of time away from home just with my current job, you know, and not that I mind traveling, but I wanted to sleep in my own bed more than I didn't. And, so I said, you know, I'm just going to fish the local stuff. And I can't tell you how many times in the middle of a tournament, someone would come in the middle of a tournament, another competitor or just random Joe would come up to me, troll up to me, not to cut me off, but to ask me a question about their electronics, you know, and
dude, come on,
but, you know, I know, but I'm the guy's like, the problem is I let it happen because I'm just not the guy that's gonna be like, hey, get out of here. Like, I'm like, hey, let me get myself DQ'd. I'm going to jump in your boat and fix your stuff for you real quick. Yeah, I'd probably fail a polygraph. You know, have you ever been in a competitor's boat? I did, but I was fixing his stuff, you know. And, you know, I don't have any trophies from those tournaments, obviously. So, but you know what happens is it humanizes you because too many times as a business owner, people see a business and they don't see the people behind the business.
Totally.
And you get treated as such. Guys, I'm a real person. I've got real feelings. I take things personally when we're human. We make mistakes. When someone calls and berates somebody, it doesn't happen often, but you get those guys, those people that you just can't please. I take it personally. My guys take it personally. And I think it helps when you interact with potential customers and just people in general for them to see this is a human. He's got real emotions, real feelings, and he's not a bad guy, you know, and if I stab him, I don't want to be that morbid, but you know, he does, he's got emotions, you know, he's got blood inside him too. And you know, what happens is, and I don't think about it at the time, it's always the afterthought, you know. Prime example is I ran into a guy at the ramp the other day. He's in an older boat, whatever. And I never judge anybody by their boat. I mean, there's guys that are running 1975 Kingfishers that have more money than I will ever have. And they're content and they're happy. You know, the funniest one I literally saw, I think it was a Kingfisher. I don't know the year. And do you know what a Kingfisher is? Do you know what I'm talking about? The Kingfisher boats?
Center console? Is that you talking about like a bay boat?
It is, but it was a smaller boat. Like it was the first glass boats, but they almost look like a John boat with high sides. I don't know how else to explain them. They don't really have a fishing deck on the front. Mm-hmm. This dude had a 16-inch unit on it. That was worth more than his boat.
Yeah.
But he was happy.
Yeah.
But that's not this boat, but this is an older boat, you know. Guy comes up there and I'm getting ready to dump in as he's coming out. His son's on the boat, which is really funny. And he just, you know, we strike up a conversation. And so we get talking and, and whatever. Next thing I know, he calls me a couple days later. He's like, hey man, you remember me from the ramp? I'm like, yeah, I do. And now the dude's going to buy batteries from me, a whole lithium battery setup.
That's awesome.
And that wasn't my point to do that. It's just, it's funny how if you treat people, just like humans, and they see like, hey, this is a human, they want to do business. I tell my guys, people are not buying from the Bass Tank. They're buying from people. They're buying from you.
Yeah.
And I'm not telling you to sell them. I'm just saying, be nice. That's part of the training in the sales side of things. Be nice, be courteous, just be what they're not used to and be professional. And you'd be amazed at how much people want to do business with us. And then they tell their buddies. I mean, I can spend all the money on marketing I want, but number one, word of mouth is still my best marketing tool. The number of people that tell me like, oh, so-and-so bought from you and he told me I need to come over here, and guess what, and so that just is a domino effect.
Yeah. That kind of leads into one of the questions I had for you, and you may have already answered it, Scott, but what does the Bass Tank do differently? Like in business school, DVP, differentiating value proposition, what sets you apart from big box retailers? Is it the customer service, the human touch? What is it that makes you different?
I think it's all of those, quite frankly. Our prices are set by the manufacturers. Other than a few little, caveats, the prices are all the same across the board. And what I tell people is go to a big box store. You may be able to save a few bucks, but here's the deal. If you call me and you need me to fix or have a technical question, I don't have a choice but to charge you an hourly rate, because my customers are always going to come first and they are going to get the support for free. And it's not because I don't want to help you. It's because my customers who spent their hard-earned money with me are going to take up my time. They're the ones that are going to get the priority on my time. And if I can do it in a 2-minute conversation, sure, great. But they're never a 2-minute conversation. Right. And to me, that's the value proposition right there is, we strive really, really hard to be knowledgeable about what we're talking about. Not just have a little bit of knowledge, but be the experts. And also I tell my guys, if you don't know, don't make something up. Tell the customer, I don't have an answer for you, but let me take your name and number. I will find out and I will get back to you. Nobody does that. Nobody does that. Yeah. You can't go into a box store and get them to do that. If they can't pull it up on the sheet, no, this is what it says. We're also users of the equipment. That's the other thing I think separates us. We use this stuff every day. I don't drop ship. I mean, we do some drop shipping, obviously, but I actually carry inventory. I touch it. I feel it. The first thing I do when I get a new product is I open up and see what all's in it so we can talk about it. But it's that human touch. I think the fact that people can call a week ago, Monday, let's see, today, what is it, Tuesday? Can't remember, whatever day of the week it is. Yeah. A week ago, Monday, I was there till 10 o'clock at night, answering every customer that called me. 188 phone calls. Oh my! I get a report. I get a report that tells me how many calls were made, how many phone calls incoming, outgoing, and time on the phone. I was on the phone for 8 hours, 45 minutes, and 3 seconds, and that's not even the longest day I've had. Wow. Like that's maybe a little bit above average, but it's not much. I believe that if you call me in a given day, I'm going to at least try to call you back that same day. Now, it may be after 5 o'clock. It may be 6 o'clock. I'm the worst one. I feel bad about this. I apologize, this gentleman, if he's listening by any chance. Sitting there, I'm in Central Time Zone. This plays an account. If I call someone in California, they're 2 hours behind me. It doesn't matter. They're still well with it. And it's like 9 o'clock. I'm like, man, you got to start shutting this down. People are going to start getting around for bed. And I call this dude, and you could tell he was asleep. He's like, hello, what's going on? He's like, Bass Tank, what? Dude, it's 10 o'clock. I'm like, no, it's not. It's 9. He was in Pennsylvania. I didn't recognize the number. He was in Pennsylvania. Yeah. I felt bad. At that point, I'm like, Scott, you need to be very specific who you call at this point. So, but, and I've got a call log, and it's funny. Some days I can stay up with it. I can be, I'll be on the phone, and I don't rush anybody off the phone. My guys don't rush people off the phone. So what could be a 2-minute phone call turns into a 30-minute phone call. So you do the math on 30 minutes at 188 phone calls. That math ain't mathing. And right. So, but I'm not going to rush anybody off the phone. If you're a customer of mine and you got a problem, I'm not going to rush you off the phone. a lot of guys are not even customers. They're just wanting help with their electronics of what they may want to do. I'm not going to rush you off the phone. I'm not going to take your money until you understand why you're buying what you're buying. I think that's another thing that differentiates us. I don't want you to buy anything from me because Scott said so. Scott may tell you why this might fit you better, but you're going to be the one that makes the decision because you're the one, it's your money and you're the one that has to live with it. So I try to do a lot of education beforehand and make sure the application makes sense, and not just take your money. Too many people just take your money and say, yep, okay, here you go. And then we get back in that people going, did I get the right thing? Now, some guys know exactly what they want, and that's fine. At the end of the day, you're adults, and if you know what you want, you know what you want. But too many people say, Scott, my favorite is a guy who called me, and he was very upfront. He said, Scott, I want to tell you something. Your time is worth something, and I don't know if I want to buy anything from you. I'm like, okay, where's this going? And he said, I don't know if I'm going to buy a boat and rig it out or if I'm going to buy a brand new boat with everything already rigged. But can I pay you a consult fee so you can help me make sure I get the right stuff? And I said, I appreciate you, saying that and considering my time. And so sure, I'm glad to. And so I work up this big quote, for him because go through everything once, and it's big. It's big. And he said, you know what? I think I'm gonna just let you rig it. I'm like, that's awesome because I put a lot of time in this. I'm not collected a dime, and I'm trying to wrestle with, do I even collect a dime from him, or not? And then he just goes cold on me. I've sent it to him, and he's gone cold. I'm like, that one hurt. That one hurt because it wasn't just something I can just whip together. That was like he was wanting to do some different things. I mean, it took a little bit of research to make sure that I got everything to the T done. Almost 9 months later, he calls me. He said, hey, Scott, do you remember me? I said, yes. I said, yeah, I do remember you. What's going on? I'm kind of like, all right, I'm ready to give you the what for, because you took my quote, gave it to someone else. He goes, man, I apologize. Had some family stuff come up and I just couldn't do what I was going to do. And then I felt about this small, about this tall, like, okay, you give the guy the benefit of the doubt.
A jerk.
And he said, I'm ready to pick this up again. And I still want you to rig it. Is that quote still valid? There's a few changes. So we went over it again and updated it, with some different things he wanted to change. Brings his boat to me. He lives 4 hours away and he's had a couple things that he wanted to address, like change. And he won't. I'm like, dude, there's a guy right down the road that can do this. I know a guy up there. He's like, nope, you're the only one touching my boat. And so you're kind of caught in between that not your time is valuable, but you have to invest time in customers. Yeah. And if that guy, I don't know if he'll ever buy another boat, if he'll ever update his equipment, but I can tell you we'll be the only ones touching his boats. And that's how we separate ourselves. We have lifelong customers, not just people who are bargain shopping. The bargain shopper probably not going to buy from me. They're not, because there are ways you can go get deals elsewhere. I'm in business, and the only way I can run my business and offer the customer support that I do is I have to make a little bit of money. I have to be able to pay people to do it. Otherwise, it would be a better business model to actually just make money, to sit right here where I'm sitting right now, take orders on the website, not talk to anyone, and just drop ship. I would not have to do the volume. I would not have to do the service. I could just drop ship and never touch the product. And I would probably make more money in my pocket than what I do. But that's icky to me. I can't stand that personally. So I think that's how we separate ourselves, honestly.
That's a great answer, man. I really appreciate it.
Heck yeah.
Hey,
probably too long-winded. I'm sorry. I forgot to tell you guys, I like to talk.
Oh, dude, that was awesome. I love the the thorough answers. I don't want you to be like, we are good with customers. Come on, give me something more than that. Give me something.
We
more.
do good. Yeah.
We love electronics. All right, Nate, what you got, homie?
No, just kind of on what you were just talking about. How many of those phone calls or conversations that you have with customers can be solved with like the have you done the latest update on your unit type of deal?
It's a mixed bag, honestly, because I tell my guys, let me do the updates. If a new update comes out, let me do it first. And I don't care whether it's Humminbird, Lowrance, or Garmin. Let me do it first, because I've got a background in computers, automation, processes. Not all updates are good updates.
Oh.
So let me do the update. Let me see if it breaks something, because I have a better chance of getting with the manufacturer to get it fixed as far as getting my stuff fixed until than you just doing it willy-nilly. Not everyone listens to me. But I always take it with the certain brand that a phone that I always laugh that has a bug that about 3 months before my contract is up, my phone stops working. And this random update came up and my phone slows down and I start getting these reminders, hey, upgrade now.
Yeah.
I'm like, does that really happen? And I believe that it does. And so I'm always leery, because I've got a guy that he's got an LVS 32. He's never done an update. And okay, have you ever done an update?
I have not, no.
And what I tell people, this is because I get this question a lot. Scott, should I update? And my question to you is, are you having problems? Nope. I love it where it's at. Don't touch it. Don't touch it. Do not touch it.
Couldn't agree more.
And so, but if you've been consistently updating, then, it's one of those things, if you don't start, don't do it. The best update that I still love for the 32 is 2.10. Well, it started at 2.01. 2.2 wasn't bad. 2.30 is when they try to do the auto gain, and it messed some things up. That's when they released perspective mode. And they went to 2.31 and 3.2 really quickly because it messed up the gain table. And the 32 was never the same. No one's going to convince me otherwise. I'm not bashing Garmin. It was never the same after that. And so if you are 2.3 or earlier than 2.3, stay there. Stay there, my friend. But to answer your question, there are a lot that can get fixed with updates, but it's usually one of two things. It's usually user error. The number of times, a very simple of, hey, my Livescope's is not accurate, or I'm seeing behind the boat. Send me a picture of how it's installed. Oh no, it's installed correctly. A buddy of mine told me it was backwards and I fixed it. Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And then they get a picture. I'm like, no, now it's backwards. And I get, there's confusion with the 34, the 32. The 32, the cable on the left side comes off the back. On the right side, it comes off the front. And hey, on the left side, it's flat. On the right side, the top is 45. That's the 32. People just get confused by it. And then the internet is the internet. You love the internet because everyone's like, oh, it's backwards. Oh, you got to do this and you got to do that. I'm like, I don't get in those forums anymore because I used to go in and try to help people. These aren't even my customers. These are just people. And I want to help. And I would get hammered. Yo, you don't know what you're talking about. Because I wouldn't go in as Scott the Bass Tank. I would just go in as Scott Palmer. Not everybody knows Scott Palmer is associated with the Bass Tank.
Yeah. And
it was just funny. I'm like, my favorite is a guy said, I've installed 5 of these systems. I know what I'm talking about. And I was like, 5? All right. I did 5 before lunch today. But I don't like to flex like that. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to help. Right. So usually what I do is I'll just DM those people. And sometimes they accept my request. I'm like, hey, you're getting a lot of bad information. This is what it is. And this is why I can't help myself. This is why I don't get the sleep that I need, is because I'm helping people. I've had phone calls. Random people have my personal cell. I'm like, just call me so I can talk you through it. But I've met some of the coolest people. I met some of the coolest people doing that. And I don't just give out my personal cell to everybody because you can imagine how I would not get to sleep. But it's out there. The morning the LVS 42 came out, and I don't mean to derail us, but this is just funny, and I got to share this. So I've known Garmin long enough. I know how things get released. ICAST is coming up. The spy pole, for example, at the Bassmaster Classic, they're never going to do it on the day of. They like to do it a week in advance so they can start building some hype. So then here's the thing, right? Like, I've done this long enough. I know how this goes. And so I was like, man, it's Tuesday. ICAST starts next Tuesday. I wonder.
Wait.
So I am up at 4:30 on my computer, refresh. I go get my coffee and it's like 5:05. I come back, hit refresh. Boom. I'm still 2. I'm like, okay. So then I'm like, I'm getting my order into Garmin. I don't even have my website yet. I placed an order with Garmin, massive order with Garmin. They were laughing. They're like, Scott, how did you know? I'm like, because I've done this before. And, they're like, it came in at 5:06. I'm like, yeah, I was ready to go. And, but, you know, so then I get on my website. So then it's like 5:30 by the time I've got on my website, my phone rings, number I don't recognize. I'm looking at it going 5:30 in the morning. Is this one of my pros, one of my guys, you know, that is having problems? Because I get that phone call, sitting in line, Scott, I'm having problems. And they have that access to me. That's part of my gig and the sponsorship of them. You know, they have that access to me.
I like that.
So I answer it. Hey Scott, what do you think about this, the new LVS 42?
Oh my gosh.
Who are you?
Yeah.
You know, just random person. I'm like, first of all, that takes some gall to call somebody you've never talked to.
Morning.
And call them at 5:30 in the morning. Yeah, that was a fun morning. And then people I knew started calling me, you know, and I was like, I guess I'm going to get up and go to the office because, you know, I'm get out of my PJs here and get ready out and go to the office because I'm not going to get any more sleep. You know, there's none of that. So, but it's an adventure to say the least. And the questions are, you know, I've always said, like, I need to frequently ask questions. Like on my webpage, I frequently ask questions. And I could probably do that. But the problem is, and this is just my brain, this is what I struggle with. My brain goes into such a diagnostic mode that I can't give you can tell just talking to me, I can't give you a very short answer. And I want to give you a very short, concise answer, but it's never that simple, you know, and, prime example is imagine your Livescope screen froze. What's the first thing you're going to look at? Your screen is just frozen place. What's the first thing you're going to look at?
Are you actually asking a question?
I'm asking both of you. This is a test. You didn't know there was going to be a test, did you?
Yeah,
this is going to be a test.
I'm probably either going old school, turning it off and on, or I'm looking at the transducer.
Okay.
Nate,
so,
well, mine froze over the weekend, and I did the old school power on and power off deal, and that was what I did.
Did it work?
And that worked, right? Probably.
It did,
yeah. So, and those are not bad answers. Those are not bad answers. But I would implore you to just look at your screen first. So here's a case in point.
Okay.
I get this call, and this guy's like, "Dude, I'm a guide," you know, and he's a customer of ours. He's a guide. He's freaking out. He's like, "I've got customers on the boat. My screen is frozen. I don't know what to do." I'm like, "All right, tell me what the screen says." Let's stop before we get too far into this. What does the screen say? I don't know. I don't know what it says. No. It says words. There are words on the screen. Tell me what the screen says. Man, I don't know. And he was frazzled.
Sure.
And this is what happens to people. The world has fallen apart. Instead of just stopping and going, "Let me observe." And I said, "Okay, I need you to stop touching the screen." And he tells me, "I'm not touching the screen." But in the background, I can literally hear the screen beeping from him touching it. And I said, "Do you know that I can hear the screen beeping in the background? That only happens when you touch it." "Oh." But I said, "Put your hands in your pocket. One hand in your pocket, the other on the phone." "Okay." I said, "Start at the top left. What numbers are you seeing?" "Nothing. It's frozen." "Okay. Go to the bottom left. What do you see?" "Paused." "What does that mean?"
Yeah.
Hit the play. There's a little arrow that looks like play. Hit that." "Well, I didn't do that." "Clearly you did. You didn't even know you're touching the screen." And I'm not bashing him. It's just things go wrong and people freak out. Absolutely. And usually it's the simplest of things. For sure. Guys are get messing around their screen and, their settings, and they accidentally turn off transmit. They don't realize their fingers slid across it and turned the transmit off. Okay. And then they go back and like, why is it saying this? Well, it says transmission disabled. What do you think that means? If we would just stop and read, sometimes it would tell us a little bit. Which is really funny because I had a teacher that used to tell me, "Scott, if you would just stop and read the instructions before you started," and that's not me. Like I don't need instructions. Let me figure this out, guy.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of questions that could be solved with an update, but it's not as much as you think it is. I would say less than 25% of them are solved with an update. Usually it's user error or, a hardware failure or a voltage problem. The screen's freezing. I tell people if your screen is freezing or lagging, 90% of the time it is something power related. Now, I'm not saying that you didn't wire it correctly. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that your battery could be running low. What does your voltage say? If you're below 12, I guarantee it's a battery problem or it's a connection problem. Yep. Go check your connections. Go check the power cable. I can't tell you how many times we found a power cable had just backed off just a half a turn, and tightening it up, boom, no more problems. The other thing it can be is the little short network cable adapter. I don't know why that one fails, except that the way people run it through the boat and they pull it, and over time it sits there and vibrates and it breaks loose. And that network cable will absolutely cause that to stick and freeze. Those are the 2 to 3 biggest things that I see problems with the freezing. I have seen updates fix the freezing, but usually that's a last resort. That's we're doing it because Garmin's going to warranty it situation. They're going to require it to be updated before they're going to warranty it type scenario.
Yeah, that's smart. Scott, my uncle used to be in, I don't know if it was IT or what. We're talking way back when computers were like, yay deep and had like the giant and like when you would fire it up, it would get to that screen where it'd say press any key to continue. And one of his most phone called in issues was I can't find the any key.
Where's the any key? Yeah.
That was a real call he would get. And it was like, dude, press pause, like use your brain. It means like literally any key.
Yeah.
And you're on the water and it's not working. It's like,
And I think that's what it boils down to. I think that it's not because people aren't intelligent. It's because they get frazzled. I spent all this money on this equipment and now it's not working. And what's going on? My day is running. And instead of just stopping, okay, let's solve the problem. And, maybe it's because the world I came in, I used to work in oil and gas and big refineries and big plants. And dude, I remember a paper mill and one of the machines shut down. There was literally paper flying off a spool. And everyone's running around freaking out. I'm like, okay, like, let's take a breath and figure out what's going on. Like, there's nothing we can do to stop this. No one's going to go grab this massive roll of paper and stop it with their hands. The safeties are kicking in. It's spinning down. Let's stop and figure out what happened, because that's just going to do what it's going to do, and let's not make a bad situation worse by getting frazzled. Let's just stop and take a breath. And, that's my TED talk, I guess, if you will, because it is, but I get it. I've done it. So telling on myself in a tournament, I've spun out, and that's what happens. People spin out. I've happened in a tournament. I had a pattern going in, the few times I would get to practice and pre-fish, like, okay, I kind of know where these fish are at. Day of tournaments and never the same. It's never the same bait. You've got fish located, but hey, it's kind of, they've moved over here. Or they're doing this, not that, but they're there. Catch a few fish. I'm like, okay, the pattern's back on. And then you go, and next thing you know, you're like, dude, there's not a fish in this lake. How many times have you said that to yourself? There's not a fish in this lake. And next thing you know, you spun out. No, there's plenty of fish. If you stop and just think about it and get back to practice, you can go find more fish.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what happens. And I think with electronics, it's just easier because my brain is wired that way compared to fishing that is a little more instinctual. Yes, there's techniques and there's learnings and there's things we can do. But when I would last year, I probably had the best year on tournaments, just local tournaments. I didn't pre-fish. I just kind of showed up and winged it. Now, I did some map study. Of course I did. With technology, I can do map study from my phone, my computer, whatever. And so I'm like, okay, this is kind of what I'm doing this kind of year. This makes sense and whatever. And I'd just go and I'd fish free. And if I felt like, like I always talk to the guys, like he saw a bird facing a certain direction, so he knew to throw a pink bubblegum fluke. How did you figure that out? It needs one feather on it. Like how did you come to that conclusion? And the times that I've just like tried the zaniest thing, like, this would almost make sense. I remember a tournament I fished in, it was like February. And something kept telling me you guys know what a redfin is? Cotton cordell redfin?
Yeah.
It's a long wake bait, right?
Yep.
So
you don't see those too much.
You don't. And for some reason, like this day just felt like a topwater day. It was a warmer day in February. And for us, that's a little bit early. The fish really aren't moved up on beds, but they're staging. But it just, something kept telling me, dude, pick up some sort of topwater. So I picked up just a popper, and I was like, that just doesn't feel right. I'm like, I wonder if that redfin worked. Ton of redfin, boom. And I start just smashing fish. And I was like, what is happening right now? Because it was one of the funnest days. Now, unfortunately, it was a slot lake. and I was catching some fatties, but they all were in the slot. And so the few overs that I caught, I weighed in, but I caught probably more fish than anybody there because everyone talked about how tough it was. And it's those things where you say, okay, I'm going to go be instinctual and just do what I feel. I've done all the preparation. I'm in the right area. There's fish here. Let me do something a little bit off the wall that's a little bit different, which I'm pretty sure is how the urchin bait came out to be. Someone said, what is the most ridiculous thing that we can throw that we can get bass fishermen? I think someone's trolling us as bass fishermen. They're seeing how ridiculous of a bait they can make, and we still fish and buy it. Yeah. And that's what it is.
You might be right, except for when Christy went Derby on it, then it was like, okay, well, it must be legit because he's not really like a gimmicky guy. That's when I had him. Like I had a whole bunch of them, and then when Christy went on it, I was like, well, dang, I guess it's for real.
And it's not that it's a gimmick. I just think they're trolling us to see how ridiculous that they can make us go catch a fish on.
It is wild.
Like it just I don't know. It's just funny. Someone's over there going, oh yeah, I think they would try this. What's next? what's the next thing?
Get here.
Yeah. So I don't know the answer to that, but we'll find out. I'm sure next year we'll find out some other ridiculous, the double urchin.
Ooh.
Can you see that? Like,
yeah.
What about that one that's got a little plastic in the middle? There's two of them going.
Wasn't there something like that at ICAST? Like a weird, like conjoined twin urchin? I'm pretty sure that was a thing.
I didn't get to see it. If I did, I'd feel, I'm
not kidding. I'm almost positive that is a thing. But let me ask you a couple of specific questions. Can we go backwards just a little bit? Like these are like questions that I think I know the answer to, but even just talking to fellers like in my local club and whatever, as they've been talking about Livescope too, just for clarity, just like, yes, no, this is exactly how. There's no black box in the new Livescope, correct? That is correct. That is correct. Which is surprising because, like, again, working in the boat place I worked at, a lot of like the salesmen, when they would talk to people, they would say Garmin still leagues above Humminbird because they don't have the processing power, blah, blah, blah. And now Garmin went that direction. That was somewhat surprising. Were you surprised by that?
Yeah. No, I really wasn't. I don't want everyone to think that this is a Garmin love fest because I like Humminbird products. I like Lowrance a lot, but we're specifically talking about Garmin right now. I get accused of being a Garmin homer. I'm like, guys, I've got a Lowrance in my console right now. What are you talking about? Like, no, Humminbird's got good mapping. I run the PowerPole Vision, so I can have all the different maps on there. But at the end of the day, you have to understand who Garmin is. Garmin is a billion-dollar company with a B, and they are a cash company. They don't have, when they go to do a new product, they don't say, oh, I need to go get funding from a bank or anything like that. And I'm not saying I've got the inside financials of the other companies, but I know Garmin says, I'm going to go spend $15 million to go do this. And they just write a check I always imagine them rolling the wheelbarrow down to the engineer, say, here you go, here's your 15 million.
Right.
I don't think that's how it happens, but at the end of the day, they're also an aviation company. That's where Garmin makes their money, is aviation. They have such technology that is so far advanced that I'll take the spy pole, for example. One of the engineers after it was released told me, he said, yeah, this has been in production or been in the work for 6 years. 6 years.
Oh, okay.
When that coincides, it hit me. It hit me. 6 years ago is when the original Garmin Force was released. And so I said, hey, are you saying that when that was released, you guys were doing this? He said, yep. Wow. I'm like, it makes so much sense why you guys went with a wireless foot pedal instead of cables.
Yeah.
It makes so much sense now. And Garmin is not mapping out next year or the year after that. Garmin is probably mapping out 10 years, 15 years. Now, they may not, that timeline may shift, but they know what's going to replace this transducer right now. Now, the logistics aren't.
That's crazy.
The logistics are not done. The engineering is not done, but they're like, in 5 years, we're going to replace this transducer. If you don't think that there's already an engineer working on the replacement of the 42, I think you're crazy. I think you're crazy. They're already working on what is it in the next generation can we do differently? And I say all that to say that the black box was great because of the processing power. But if you ever pulled one apart, you'd be surprised at the lack of electronics inside of it. It's not like the black box is this big and there's this much electronics in it. The board is about that big.
Really?
Yeah. And so I attended a technology conference or in my past life, and I remember the keynote speaker was talking about technology, and this wasn't anything to do with fishing. This was just in the industry that we were in. And they said, we're only limited by technology today. Think about the first computer that was the size of a room.
Right. Yeah.
Like the computer, not a server room, but the computer itself was a massive. And now I've got more computing power in my phone than they had to land on the moon. He said, every 10 years, technology doubles. And so there's a new breakthrough so we can make a smaller microchip. We can make something smaller. They can make you're talking about this nanotechnology, not to get too far down the squirrel, but nanotechnology for medical purposes to put in you to go do monitoring. Now, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but no, that's not going in me. I'm just telling you right now, that's ain't happening. That's Skynet stuff right there, baby.
Yeah, Terminator.
But Garmin has access to such amazing technology. It's no surprise to me the black box is not in it. Like, I also think that Garmin thought that, and this is just me. This isn't anything that Garmin said. This is just me, just doing 2 and 2 together. Like, I'm not sure they didn't want the black box in the water for water cooling, as opposed to stuffed in a rod locker with no airflow and overheating. Yeah. Because I believe that the thermal cycle, heating up, cooling down, off, on, cooling, that's degradation over time. I firmly believe that. And maybe I'm wrong, but there's a reason why they have the water sensor on it now. So when it's out of the water, it says water not detected, and it turns off. It stops clicking.
Yeah, which is really.
And I can tell exactly, and I can tell you that just driving to the lake without the unit on, turn on my transducer, the 34 transducer overheated. In Oklahoma, it's hot. Just driving to the lake, it would overheat. Wow. And guys are like, oh, I turned my transducer off, when I move spots. Okay, why? That's not going to stop it from overheating. It's not. And I'm moving a mile down the lake, and I've got airflow across it. But driving down the road at 75 miles an hour, 70, whatever the speed limit is, I don't have enough airflow to keep it from getting hot. And you think that turning it off is going to fix that? Right. No, getting in the water is what's going to cool it down.
Yep.
And the number of guys that hit pause that does not stop the transmit, it just pauses the screen. That's not actually disabling the transducer.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. But and again, that's I'm not making fun of anybody. I'm just like, guys, this is why you think you're doing something good and you're really not.
Yeah.
But anyway, I don't know if that was what you were looking for or not, but
100%.
It didn't surprise me.
Yeah, 100%. That and the idea that the water sensor thing to turn it on and off, I thought was brilliant. Like just kind of auto mode. Yeah, really smart. Did you have any insight, Scott? Like why the shape of it now? Why does it look the way it looks? Like it's such a complete different looking transducer than any of them out there.
Yeah, and I think the stitching for smoothness, you don't see the stitching in the 42 or the 44 like you did on the 34. The 34, you could see certain spots where stitching would be there. And I think they had to do that for the stitching to clean up, to maintain the image, because now instead of 135 degrees, it's 165 degrees of a field of view. And so it had to change. There's 2 elements. It's 2 arrays instead of 3, like we're used to. And that comes down to stitching. It just comes down to stitching. And I think it's one of those things where they don't worry so much about the form. They worry about the effect, and then they figure out how to fit this inside this. It's a kind of a reverse, like let's figure out how this works, see how small we can get it. And then whatever the shape is, that's what we'll do, and then, there's little ridges in it, and no doubt that's to create surface area for better cooling. That's, I think that's what it is, but that's just my insights or my guesses. I don't have any real insight. The engineers didn't say, well, Scott, this is what we were thinking. We want to do the smiley face shape, and we couldn't. And it's just, I don't have that much insight.
Yeah, that's awesome though. Those are really good pieces of info, because it's just stuff that I was wondering about that I've heard from other guys. I got a few other questions that are less specific about Garmin, whatever. Nate, do you have anything else on the Livescope 2 stuff before we transition to something else? And then we'll get Scott out of here because I don't want to keep him up too late. I know he doesn't sleep since he's taking phone calls all night, but
Right. Yeah, nothing more specific on Livescope 2 that I can think of. No.
Okay. Yeah. It looks awesome. Also, if you know the folks at Garmin, could you ask them to drop the prices on their units just a bit? Sweet Jesus in heaven. Like some of like the big screens, my God, it is crazy what you're paying.
You know, it is. And ever since that little thing that we went through a couple years ago, I don't like saying certain words because I know it triggers algorithms. So, you know, we all know what we're talking about. That thing around the 1920 range, prices went up. And what I tell people is when prices go up, they never go down. They never go down. And we're seeing that. Now, someone told me, they said, Scott, why can I go buy a 65-inch TV at Walmart for $500?
Yeah.
But a 16-inch screen is $5,000.
Yeah, it's 5,500 or something crazy. Yeah.
And you look at it and go, okay, on the surface, I see what you're saying. But what people don't realize is the technology behind it.
That's different.
Even if your TV is a smart TV, first of all, it runs on AC. If you took it outside, you know, we're used to seeing it inside in a dark room. And so it's very, very bright. If you took that outside, you couldn't see that in sunlight. It's not a sunlight rated screen. It's also not water rated. It's not waterproof. If you rained on it, screen's done.
Yeah.
Screen's done. And forget rain, you just splash it. You take one wave and boom, it's done. And then the technology of it. It's not a touch screen. It's not interactive. So there's a lot of technology in it. Now, I'm not saying that justifies the price tag because I don't see what the expenses are behind it. I was told one time that the most expensive part of the units was the actual screen themselves. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I was told by someone that probably knows. But also think of the R&D that went into it. This isn't like if Garmin was going to come out with a new Garmin Lowrance, anybody come out with a new unit today, they would have had to start it 2 or 3 years ago.
Wow.
Think about how much they had to pay people to, you know, get the Gen 1 out, and it failed, it blew up, let the smoke out. And then the next one, you know, and so at some point they have to make money on these. So let's say that, and I don't know. I don't know what Garmin's margins are. So guys, don't say Scott said, because this is just me making, for example. Yeah. Let's say that, you know, the screen is $5,000. Just use that as a simple math. And their cost to produce it is $3,000. And so then they're going to have to sell it to me or distributor for X. So that's their margin right there. And let's pretend that they sell it to me. Their cost is $3,000 and my cost is $4,000. So I'm going to sell it for $5,000, and they're going to make $1,000 off of it. Do you know how long it would take them to make their money back at $1,000 a pop if they spent $15 million in R&D? It wouldn't. We wouldn't have any more screens. So I'd be willing to bet their margins are a little bit better than that. I don't know. Like, again, guys, I'm not saying that's what they are or they aren't. I'm just saying, for example, this is the problem, you know, because they've got cost. You know, they've got engineers aren't cheap. Right. Engineers aren't cheap. You know, they don't work for pennies. They're very smart individuals. So you're not going to get them for $50,000 a year. You know, they're really smart guys. And so they're going to command a salary. Just that alone is expensive. And then the money to actually go and do the development of it. And it's probably not one engineer. It's probably multiple engineers working on a big project like that. And so there's just a lot of factors that go into it. And they're not going to sell 2 million of these. As much as we think the fishing industry is huge, and it is a massive industry, there's only so many people who are going to buy a 16-inch unit. You can make them $2,000. There's only so many people. It's a finite number that are going to buy a 16-inch unit. And so it's just the economics of it when you stop and really start thinking about it, man, that's crazy expensive. But then you start thinking the economics and going back down the line, you're going, wait a minute. By the way, they make these in Taiwan, so they have to air freight them or put them on a boat. That can't be cheap.
Yeah, right.
You know, and so, yeah, I mean, I'd love for the prices to come down because I think I would sell more units if their prices were down, and you know, I might make a little bit of money because my margins aren't great. You know, people think, hey, Scott, you sold a $5,000 unit, you made $5,000. No, I didn't. I you I didn't. I have to sell a lot of those $5,000 units to pay the bills.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
yeah, I used to work at Shields for a short while, and our discount there was just 5% above cost on everything. So you go to buy you like a bag of power bait, whatever, it was half off. You go to get a Hummer unit, and it was like $100 off a $3,000 unit. You're like, wait a second, you know what I'm saying? But it's all margin. The other one that was
all margin based.
Yeah, the other one that was weird was like hard baits across the board. You could save so much money with my discount. You didn't get next to nothing on Mega Bass, nothing. Like a Vision 110, because they're just actually expensive to make. But anyway, let's keep it moving. Are you okay with still talking? You got to get out of here?
No, guys, I'm good. I made sure to. I didn't know how long you wanted to go, and so I just left it open for you guys. So keep going as long as it's valuable to you guys. I'll sit here and talk to you as long as you want.
Well, I super appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay, so one of the questions I have for you is, I want you to answer this as like straightforward as you can, almost yes or no, and then dive into why you said yes or no. Is that okay?
I'll do my best.
Well, you can expound, of course, but just the first right out of the giddy. Let's not keep it gray, black and white. In 2026, if you are trying to be consistently in contention in competitive bass fishing, do you have to be a technology whiz? Yes or no?
No.
Okay.
But you have to leverage it. You have to know how to leverage it.
Okay.
And so if you would have said, do you have to lean on technology? Do you have to give into the technology? I would say yes. But a whiz, no. Okay. And what I mean by that, everyone's gonna say, oh, Scott's talking about forward-facing sonar. No, I'm not. That is a tool.
Sure.
Your mapping is just as important as it has ever been. I think it's more important than it's ever been, because you need to go find fish that other guys aren't finding. Mm-hmm. Your side imaging, you've got to find the spot within the spot. And everyone wants to use forward-facing sonar as a scapegoat. And I'm like, guys, where do we draw the line? Mm-hmm. How far back in technology do you go? And everyone's like, oh, it's like spotlighting deer. No, it's not. I'm telling you, a deer in headlights doesn't move. You could run over that deer. That deer is not going to move. Fish move. You can see them, and I've lost many a fish trying to set myself up for a decent cast, and fish is gone. Yeah. They can swim. And so it's a tool. And yes, does it give you advantage when you learn it? I think it does. Sure. Yeah. But how did I find that fish? How did I know to go to that spot? Too many guys that have not used it say, oh, you just put the trolling motor, you go down. Okay, cool. Let me know how far away from the ramp you get. Let me know. You must have 50,000 batteries in your boat because your trolling motor's on high and you're moving so fast. One of the best scopers on the planet, we were playing with a spy pole, Justin Hamner. I'm going to name drop him. And I was playing with a spy pole. I'm like, hey, Justin, check this out. And I'm back there and I've got spy scan going on. So it's sweeping back and forth. I ramped that thing up to 10. And he was like, whoa, what are you doing? Even I can't scope that fast. So imagine putting your trolling motor, just forget you've got a spy pole, you've got it forward facing on the trolling motor, and you've got it on 10 and you're just as fast as you can. I'm going to cover water. You're going to miss so many fish. It's unreal. Yeah. Or you've done the map study. You've done the imaging. There's a brush pile on this drop. That they're set up on this ditch. They're inside this ditch, or, hey, this rock pile, but then there's this little sneaky spot over here where there's fish holding fish. That is still technology. There's some guys here locally that used to go they were known for dropping brush piles, which is not illegal. I'm not, this is not a bad thing, but that was their thing. That's how they won a lot of tournaments, is they would put in the work to go drop brush piles. And then side imaging came along and we found their brush piles. Yeah. They couldn't hide anymore. Yeah. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, side imaging. People think that this is the first time we've heard a new technology is going to run fishing. Side imaging is going to run fishing. Yeah. The fish got nowhere to go. Well, now it's live, and yeah, it is. And yeah, it's fish that we've never seen before, but I can still turn around and catch fish on the bank. Yes, I'm fishing for fish that I've never fished for before, but we were only fishing for about 10%, 10-20% of the fish to begin with. Right. So you're telling me that we're really hurting the population that much? Anyway, I'm not going to get on that subject, but you have to lean on technology. You have to lean on technology. Let's take someone that's been doing this a long time. Let's take a Kevin Van Dam. I don't know if I can use his name. I don't know him, but I just know that Kevin Van Dam is one of the best to ever do it. How much time do you think Kevin Van Dam spent looking at a topo map, like a lake map? I don't know if you guys remember, we used to get to buy these maps, and they were topo maps of a lake is what they were. Showed you the contours. Man, they're so cool. I've got several of like Lake Fork and Sam Rayburn. And I'm like, damn, nostalgic at this point.
Yeah.
And
like hot spot lakes, or
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But these were fold out maps.
Yeah.
And how many times do you think Kevin Van Dam looked at those in his career and then went out there and looked at it on the flasher or whatever sonar was available, spent the time? He was leaning on technology then, even if it was just his outboard motor.
Yeah. Yeah.
So where do we draw the line? And that's what I ask people, like, okay, cool. Tell me about that when you're fishing with your cane pole. Oh, by the way, a cane pole is still technology because it's a mechanical advantage over a fish. Use your bare hands.
Yeah.
Like, use your bare hands. You can't use goggles because that's a technology. Like, how far back do we want to go? Yeah. And everyone has their line of limit of technology. I've got my own, the VR glasses or the heads up display. For me, that's going to be the line. Are they cool? And would I do it one time just to look at it? Sure. But I do enjoy being out there on the water and looking around and seeing things and not just everything in my face, But that's again, different subject. I think if you're not doing map study, and what my point was with Kevin was like, he learned all that knowledge. But I promise you, if you took a young Kevin, said, Kevin, you've got this thing, this phone, this computer that you can sit down and you don't have to have all these maps. You can just type in a lake and zoom in on an area. And you can go back in historical data like Google Earth, historical stuff. Would you rather do that? Kevin's going to say, yep, absolutely. I used to keep an actual written notebook. When I fish a tournament, I get done. Part of my debrief would be, this is what I did. These were conditions. Water was 1 foot high, no outgoing, no current. Water was dirty. I fished dirty water or stained water. I tried this and this and this. I caught a limit. I finished this place. Winner claims he used this because we know how fishermen are. They never say what they actually used.
Yeah.
And then boom, I put it in a file. Next time I came to that lake, all right, now I've got some history on this lake. And I don't believe in fishing history, but I believe in learning from history. There's a difference. Well, then that went from that, to computers really came around when I was in high school. I graduated in 2001 and I remember computers class. So Microsoft, that stuff really started coming around, and then Excel. Then I started creating an Excel document. I'm like, hey, I've got the Lake Eufaula, Oklahoma tab. This is what it was. And I would literally build ambient air temperature and things like that. Wow. And again, that's just map study. That's technology. Am I doing anything wrong by leveraging that technology? No, I'm creating a game plan. And so no matter what you do, you have to lean on the technology, but you don't have to be a whiz. You just have to figure out what works for you to be able to go catch fish. And I promise you that if I put the best scoper on the planet right now on no maps, no side imaging, nothing, and I put them on a lake they'd never been on, and I put them against another guy, and I said, you get to scope when you get there, but you have all access to pre-plan, pre-study, do everything.
Yeah. My
money is going to be on the guy who had a chance to learn the lake before he ever set foot on it, as opposed to just dropping the trolling motor and driving around. Because that one guy's going to spend time driving. You know what he's going to do? First thing he's going to do is he's going to drive around and start scanning. He's not going to drop the trolling motor. He's going to pick up and he's going to drive around and scan and look for those things that he's looking for, because he's leaned on technology to tell him in the past history, like, these are the type of things I'm looking for on my side imaging. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to be a whiz, but you do have to lean into it. That is a very long answer for a very short question you asked me.
A great answer. And I really like that hypothetical. Yeah. A lot of sense, because it is sort of, I do think the best anglers are the sweet spot, the confluence of different tools, different technology, and then leaning into their own experience, battle hardened, whatever. Those are the guys. Because I remember when I first got Livescope, again, from the Bass Tank, half the dudes maybe at derbies had Livescope then, maybe half. Yeah. And, I mean, there's not a bass tournament boat out there without Livescope nowadays. You know what I'm saying? So like now that's why I said the whiz thing. Like, in your opinion too, Scott, and I don't know if you're allowed to say this or not, is Drew Gill the best Livescoper on the planet?
Whew, boy, he's got to be in that conversation. I mean, I would have. He's ridiculous. He is.
Yeah.
It's hard to say, because that's such a subjective opinion.
It is,
but at the same time, like if you said, Scott, I believe he is the best scoper on the planet, I would have a hard time arguing it. Maybe I can answer it that way because I think he's that good. I think he's in that very short list of people that are really, really good at it. Now, the other thing is, what is a good scoper? Is it the guy who can catch the best fish, or because there's guys that I know are really, really good, and it's funny because they can find the fish, they see the fish, they can't catch the fish.
Yeah, that's a thing.
And I'm like, okay, are you good at finding fish? You're just horrible at fishing right now? Is that what it is? Or are you just, and it's funny because that can be a real thing, I was famous early on in my tournament career. I was the famous 3-fish guy. 5-fish limit, I would bring 3 fish for 14 pounds. I would come in with some
3
hammers.
Three
good ones, but I couldn't find 2 more and I'd always be right there on that check cut line. And they're like, Scott, what's it going to take? And I'm like, I can find 3 good fish. Why can't I? I'm around. And then my co-anglers would always be like top 5. I'm like, I'm good at finding fish. I suck at catching fish, apparently, but I was never a co-angler. Like I started off as a boater because my OCD, I'm going to win this or lose this my way. I'm going to learn it my way. I didn't want to be behind someone, but so I think there are some guys that are really, really good scopers that maybe just haven't figured out the technique, this is the little thing. I spent a lot of time on the boat with Justin Hamner, for example. And, I've known Justin a long time. He and I are friends. At this point, it's not a sponsorship deal. We became friends several years ago. And so I'm like, Justin, teach me how to throw a jerkbait. Teach me how to fish a jerkbait the way you do.
Yeah. Geez.
And I'm like, dude, yell at me, tell me I'm stupid, whatever. You're not going to hurt my feelings. If I'm doing it wrong, tell me.
Yeah.
And I'll be doing it. He'll just turn around and I can't hang on. I'll do this. He'll turn around and you go, what are you doing? You're an idiot. Don't do that. No. I'm like, and he's so offended that I'm working a jerkbait that way. So, and you're talking about one of the best jerkbait fishermen on the planet. Justin put a jerkbait in his hand. He's gonna show you something. And so that's where these guys are good. But Justin, and this is where I think the kind of the distinction can be, like, Justin is going to live and die by that jerkbait. Like, he's going to lean to that. He can fish other ways for sure, but he wants that jerkbait in his hand. He wants them to eat the jerkbait. And that's where I think guys sometimes get in their own head, get in their own way. They're really good scopers. They're really good at finding fish, but getting to eat, they go to a technique that may not be the thing that day. And I'm not picking on Justin. I'm just saying that, like, he may, we all go to that confidence bait. I'm Scott, what bait do you want? Give me a buzz bait. I'm really good with a buzz bait. No, it's not that I'm good with a buzz bait. I've had success on a buzz bait, and I'm willing to put it in my hand and throw it all day long if I think I can get 5 bites on it. I can go all day long just throwing it, never putting it down because I've got that much confidence in it, and I know when I get them, they're going to be good fish.
Sure.
That's hard to do. So is Drew Gill the best? I think I couldn't argue if you said yes. I think he's in that conversation for sure.
Yeah. I like the way you look at things. You kind of analyze. You're definitely an engineer. You said mechanical advantage a little bit. You talked about spreadsheet lakes. You're definitely you have a little too much personality to be a full blown engineer.
I actually had someone tell me that one time. They said, Scott, there's no way you're an engineer. I said, why is that? They said, you got too much personality.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't know whether to be offended or thank you, I guess,
Nobody else has mechanical advantage or keeps a spreadsheet on Excel like the late. I respect the fire out of it though. That's awesome. I don't know. I don't know how much you know, or how much you utilize, or maybe you can't say. I don't know the lines there. Omnia Fishing, our buddy Matt, who owns Omnia Fishing, like the app and everything. He's very much the same way. He's like painfully analytical, and so that's why Omnia is so successful, is because they're gathering all this data from like a million different sources and then sort of amalgamating it into one easy to use platform. And there's something for that. You know what I'm saying? The thing I like about, kind of skipping back to what we were saying, the thing I like about Drew Gill and the way that he fishes with Livescope is he doesn't do it the same way that everybody else does. You know, he'll fish it in regular mode up super shallow, or he'll change like how far out it's reading and bring it way in like 15 feet. Like he just does all these different little tweaks to it. And to me, he's very like he's very engineer mindset, where it's like, you know, what is the objective best way to utilize this tool? Because that's a Phillips head screw. I'm not using a flathead on it. How do I, you know what I'm saying? I love watching guys who do that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
And I can tell you honestly, you know, Drew is a guy that one day I want to sit down and just I just want to nerd out with him. I do.
Oh.
He is one of the guys that I hope to have the opportunity to sit down, and we don't have to do it on camera. It's not even that. I just want to sit down because you're exactly right. You know, guys, I'll do it to customers on the phone. Imagine me nerding out with a customer. They'll get one little question, and the next thing I know, I'm explaining it all. And I'm like, okay, I need to shut up. And then, usually they're like, dude, that's awesome. I appreciate you explaining it. I can't help myself because I want you to know. And, my videographer told me one time that said, dumb it down just a little bit. I'm like, what do you mean dumb it down? Like this is good information. They're like, yes.
It may
Scott, listen, feed them breadcrumbs before you feed them steak. I'm like, okay. And I've had to learn that, not because I'm so smart. It's just because, as you can tell, just talking to me, sometimes I word vomit. I get down, I'm like, oh, and then about this, and then about this. And like, actually, you were just trying to get over here. And I went, wee, and I went around the corner and I explained, I'm telling you how the clock is made instead of telling you what time it is. Sorry.
Really good. Well, can I ask you a couple more questions? Are you good with that, sir?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm having fun. I've got a question for you guys too before we end up.
All right. Well, why don't you do that, and then we'll ask. I only have like one or two kind of generic questions to end that I'm actually curious about. But ask your question, Scott. What do you got, homie?
I want to know how you guys came up with the name. I love the name. I want to know how that came to be.
Yeah, we get that question a lot. The short version. You want to tell it, Nate? Or you want me to?
I guess if I tell it, it might be slightly shorter than if you tell it. So
you do it then.
We can save a few minutes that way, but yeah. So I guess where do we start? So our buddies at the Working Class Bow Hunter podcast, deer hunting podcast, kind of came to us and asked if we'd want to be a part of their network and start a fishing podcast, under their umbrella, and we were like absolutely been friends with them for a long time. So we, kind of tossed around some ideas on, names, stuff we kind of went back and forth on. Figure Out Fishing was kind of the one we kind of kept falling back on. We thought it was
all right.
Kind of catchy. Yeah, it was all right, but it was also kind of, it was a little corny, so we didn't really want to go that route and be, kind of like every other fishing podcast that's out there. So I think Jordan's wife Lola was like, why don't we call it Tackle and Tacos? And the where we got that name was Jordan, his wife Lola, and myself. We kind of kicked around the idea of starting a tackle shop kind of right on the Mississippi River in Port Byron, and we were going to call it The Spot with 2 T's for tackle and tacos, because we were going to also sell a taco of the day, because Jordan and I are both big cooks, and Lola being Puerto Rican and whatnot. So that's kind of how it came about, and we ran it by Kurt at the Working Class Bow Hunter, and he was like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. And so now we talk to pros and people like you about fishing, and then half the time we forget, but we like to ask them like, hey, when's the last time you had a good taco? Are you a cook? Yeah. What's your local spot? We had Jay Yellis on a while back. And you want to talk about a legend, like really, really, like, so we've had Ken Duke on a couple times, and Ken's
awesome.
Ken's incredible. Ken said Jay Yellis could have absolutely been Kevin Van Dam, but he kind of bounced around. He went like FLW to BASS and kind of did some different things. If he would have just, and it's not like a diss, he did what he wanted to do, but if he would have stayed on one, he could have been Kevin Van Dam success. And he's kind of like a real slow, like not slow speaking, but kind of a soft spoken feller and older guy. And he was talking about some, gosh, dog, I can't remember the name of it. He was talking about his favorite taco joint where he lives. And it's called like Super Ernesto's or something. It was so cool. And we love tacos. So what about you, Scott? When's the last time you had a good taco, brother?
So I don't have. I love tacos. So
Um,
you're speaking my language. I dabble a little bit in here. I've got just so you kind of know who you're dealing with here. I'm
okay.
that ridiculous. I've got a pellet smoker. I've got a regular smoker. I've got the old Weber, gas grill. I've got a
Hey,
charcoal grill. I've got a Blackstone. I bought me one of those Longhorn broilers. Actually, I didn't buy it. My mom got for Christmas last year. Actually, the Longhorn broilers, which I love, by the way.
awesome.
I got my cast iron skillets. Like, I like to play, and I can't decide how I'm going to cook my steak or cook my food that day. Which method am I going to do?
Heck yeah.
I don't have a great taco shop. Just a lot of it has to do more with time. Truth be known, I'm a little bit of a hermit. Believe it or not. As many people as I have to deal with, you would think, oh, Scott's this social butterfly. No, I use my battery to be social, and then I need my time to recoup. And I just don't go out that much, and I like to cook. So my favorite way to cook a taco,
I can't wait.
and I do a soft shell taco. I take deer meat. I love to deer hunt, huge deer hunter. Yep. So I'll take deer meat and I'll slice it up, fry it up, and I don't necessarily over season it because I think I don't want it to overpower the other condiments in it. And dude, just put some cheese in that bad boy. Put some avocados in it. You can put guac in it. I like full avocados. Put some sour cream, and then I put just a little bit of ranch in it to just give it that little bit of sweet kick.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And then I'll sear it up. I don't fry them. I sear them up in the cast iron. And it's not a true taco, but it's pretty good.
That's a taco. Dude, that's a taco. That sounds freaking awesome. I'm actually hungry right now,
good.
and that made it so much worse. Dude, for what it's worth, man. So I used to live in Austin, Texas for a while, and there's a restaurant in Austin. It's right on, I can't remember if it's on Lake Travis maybe, but they have a big dock that goes out. And you can actually go out there and eat. It's so sick. It's called
Now is it on the cliff overlooking, or is it down in?
Down on the lake. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There was a really dope barbecue place there too called Salt Lick, and they would do which
I know Salt Lake.
Oh gosh, it's so expensive and so good. But that's the first time I ever had a blended, a barbecued meat in a taco, which is just, it's Jesus' favorite thing. I'm pretty sure. It's just such an awesome combination. Anyway, at Hula Hut, they had this taco. It was called they had it in an enchilada and a taco called the pipeline enchilada or pipeline taco. And you could get all the different whatever, and then they would put what they made, and I do it here at my house. They made a jalapeno ranch. So they literally just took ranch, whatever ranch. I even dude one time, like whatever generic brand of ranch, and they chop up cilantro and a food processor and chop up jalapeno and then just mix it in. So it wasn't anything revolutionary, and it is freaking incredible on a taco. I'm not you at all. I do that with Venny too. Yeah, I'll make taco all day long.
Yeah. I'd like a good hard shell taco. I like those too for sure. Mine end up, the problem is mine end up, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna put this in it. Ends up being more like a burrito just because it gets so much stuff in it. And I like it where it's falling out of it, then I have to finish it up with a fork. That's me. That's absolutely me.
That's it though. And honestly,
that's the way to do it.
Yeah, we talked to Polinick about that. How that's like fishing. As long as you're not breaking legal rules, there's no wrong way to fish. You could on a micro bait and a situation that doesn't make any sense. You could take a taco and put whatever the crap you want in it. I actually had an idea for forever ago. Nate knows this. It's a terrible idea, but it's also not. I had this idea called Taco That. That would be the name of the restaurant, Taco That. And basically the whole premise was taking regular meals but putting them in tacos. So you could have a Thanksgiving taco where you have turkey meat and stuffing, a little bit of cranberry, maybe some gravy in it, and that's a taco. That sounds like the craziest not taco thing ever, but it'd probably be dope. Or when I lived in Atlanta, fried chicken and waffles was everybody's favorite thing. So just take chicken waffle, make it thinner, make it a tortilla, put some fried chicken in it, put some maple syrup on top or something. That's a taco. So I had this idea to make tacos out of everyday foods. And I don't know, maybe I just gave somebody an idea they're going to run with. I'm going to lose out on my
You're going to be mad you didn't do it. Yeah. Now I like that. I think you could have done something. Now I can tell you that restaurants, and they'll tell you their margins are horrible. You would talk about something worse. But I think I've got I will say this, I've got a little street taco, it's just a taco truck that parks down the road from the office, and go and get little street tacos and just get the dirty dozen, they call it.
Yep.
and it's all a little bit of different variation. Now, I am absolutely gringo. I can't handle crazy spice. Jalapeno is about my level of spice. I like jalapenos, but I can't get you get much more than that, and I'm gonna be jalapenos make my eyes water. I mean, I'm sorry, that's just where I'm at. And but man, sometimes I'm like, man, I want some street tacos. Go down there and get that dirty dozen, and I'm just like smashing them, and half the time I'm like, man, I wish that was a bigger taco, but it's good.
Go through a couple of. We actually had one of the guys we had on, and breaks my heart, honestly, like legit makes me sad. But we had a buddy on quite a while ago, but he owned a taco restaurant here in Wisconsin called Guac and Roll, and they went out of business, which is the but like we had him on, and we talked about give us some taco secrets, or like what how do you make a good taco? And I remember one of the things he said is when you eat a taco, the secret is you always bring your head down to the taco. Like you don't bring the taco up to your head because then everything spills out. And I was like, oh, we're getting tips on how to eat tacos now.
Absolutely genius.
Yeah. Now we're getting, dude, I could. And for me, like, sounds like you're the same way, Scott, but like, I love cooking outside. I have a Traeger and I have a gas grill and I have a Loco, which is the same thing as a Blackstone, but I think the heating element's a little more consistent. No hate to Blackstone. I know Nate's a big Blackstone guy too. But I love making smoking. Like one of my favorites ever is just doing pulled pork, like on the Traeger, like 14, 15 hours till it's just mush. And then instead of making pork sandwiches, just do the same thing, but make it pulled pork tacos. It's so good. I mean, it's just the best. Especially a big pork butt, and it gets that bark on the outside. So you get a little bit of that bark and a little bit of the meat on the inside. Taco with some like dry coleslaw, some red onion, cilantro, jalapeno, a little bit of jalapeno ranch. Boy, I can.
Sorry, I was drooling a little bit there, boys. I apologize for that.
That's the absolute best amalgamation ever is barbecue and tacos. Put those two together. But yeah, that was actually the idea for tackling tacos, was like every day come down to the shop, get you a Vision 110, get you whatever you need. And then also today is smoked salmon tacos or, whatever, just stuff that I like to make on my own. But let's go back to Bass Tank real quick and then we'll get you out of here. The last question I have, like I said, is sort of a generic one, but I'm actually curious. With your current business model, with your current business volume, kind of taking in all the metrics and the trackable things for your business, where do you see the Bass Tank in 5 years, 10 years down the road? How do you see this going?
Man, that's something I think about quite a bit, honestly. And a lot of it, this industry is very volatile. There's some guys that have been in the industry a long time, and I talked to them about, the 20s, the early 2020, 21. And I said, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not this way all the time. They're like, no, this is an anomaly. Like they basically said, cut this off and, this is how you're tracking. And we've consistently been growing, since if you take that anomaly out, because that was kind of a perfect storm of, and that's not the right word because I don't mean because that was a bad time, but.
Oh, but I know what you're saying.
If the year before that and then the year after that, it was for us was like this, we were going up, if you just take that out, what the numbers were that. And so every year has just continued to go up. And so that's a good thing from a volume standpoint, assuming we continue to grow and we don't have to grow leaps and bounds. I'm hoping to open another store or two, and it could happen anytime. I mean, I've explored it. It's no secret. There's guys that know that I've explored it. I don't have a problem saying that I've explored pretty heavily on where my next store would be. And I've got the short list. So when that time is right, we'll do it. But my only problem is I believe in the next 5 to 10 years, I could have 2 or 3 locations across the country. And I love that because I can bring what we do to more people. I've got a guy that's coming from Connecticut in a couple of weeks for us to do his install. And as much as I appreciate that, I wish I had somewhere that was closer. I get guys that drive from all over the country, and I'm humbled by that because that's no easy task. That's forget what it costs for me to install it. Just the financial investment and time to drive across the country is massive. So I would like to have more stores that I can serve more people, but my biggest concern is always quality. Is because at the end of the day, I can't do this alone. And let's say I had 2 stores or 3 stores, I can't physically be at each one. I can't be the guy answering the phone on everyone. So it's always quality, and I want the experience, if you were in my shop in Sapulpa, Oklahoma, to be the same if you were in, I don't know, in Wisconsin. Let's say I opened one in Wisconsin.
You probably should.
I would want the experience. If someone left my shop in Wisconsin and drove to Sapulpa, my guys in Sapulpa would be like, yep, this, not being like, what in the world, or vice versa. The customer to say, hey, this is exactly how I got treated there. Wow, this is awesome. And that's a culture thing. But the good news is, like, I've got a good base in Sapulpa. My guys there believe in what we're doing. I mentioned earlier, you can't fake it. And I've been very fortunate to have a really good team. And there's times I might need to expand, but I'm leery because not everyone wants to work as hard as we do. And not everyone cares. If a boat comes into my shop, it's my boat. It's our boat. It's going to be treated like my boat. And if I wouldn't do it on my boat, I'm not going to do it on your boat. And my guys know that. And so I think that's where we're going. I think that's just a natural progression that I think we're going to have at least one more location. I think it's a possibility to have two. I think we could, that's probably looking at 5 to 10 years. I think that's probably what could happen. I think that's, you never know, but you start planning towards that. If we continue to do this, what it is, it's just going to make sense.
Wow. That's awesome, man. And honestly, I like at a specific answer. A lot of times you'll ask people on a business level, where do you see yourself in 5 to 10? Oh, kind of doing the same thing, growing, whatever. Like, you're giving a pretty specific answer. I think that's, you don't bullseye, you're gonna hit it. So I really respect that. Nate, you got any other questions for Scott before we kick him out of here? It's been like 2 hours. I know the dude needs to sleep at some
We have been pushing it, yeah, for sure. I don't know if I have. I guess my only question is a selfish one, and it's what's my unit doing? Question,
Okay.
See if you
talk to me.
See if you can help me out here. So I've got, like I was saying, I've got the LVS 32 and what is it, the 93 SV, and it is like spinning. This guy doing this guy.
You're not gonna like the answer to this.
I'm in big trouble.
So here's what's happening. Your AHRS sensor, or layman's terms, your compass, has failed. Okay. So you can try to do a calibration on it, and it's probably going to. And did it go to 0? It never would calibrate.
I got it to I got it to go to like 70 and some change, like 78 maybe % is what I got it to, and I think it said calibrated, and that was the accuracy or something like that. But I never got it.
So let me ask you this before we get too far down there. How are you calibrating it? Is it on the trolling motor? Do you have it on a separate pole? How are you calibrating it?
It is mounted to the trolling motor. I want to say I did kind of went through the steps, turned the trolling motor on like constant to turn, and just like on like a 2.5 power, and just kind of did the little slow circle deal.
So here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to, what trolling motor are you running?
Ultrex.
All right, so turn the trolling motor off. So deploy it and point it straight, and then turn it off. And then use your big motor to start your calibration and do your big motor to do the circle, because you could be getting magnetic interference. So this, depending on the age of your trolling motor, is it the Quest or non-Quest version of the Ultrex?
Not non-Quest. Honestly, it's probably one of the original variations of the Ultrex 2018, 20. Something like
so that's early on. So you could have some insulation failure inside the trolling motor. Nothing that's going to cause the trolling motor itself to degrade or like to not stop working. But what could be happening is you could be getting magnetic interference in it. So you're only getting a 78% spin quality, or that magnetic environment that it says like 78%. That means it's a bad magnetic. We want that to be close to 100%. It's inverted. So the closer to 100% it is. So 70 is not a great magnetic environment, meaning we've got some leakage from the trolling motor. So what I want you to do is deploy the trolling motor, point it straight, turn it off, and then start your calibration, but use the big motor to start. It's better with a buddy. From a safety purpose, I have to tell you guys, use a buddy so he can control, do the circle while you're up there doing it, unless you can do it from your console. But do that, because that's the actual steps. Most people overread it, and listen, I've calibrated them using the trolling motor as well. Garmin specifically says turn off the trolling motor and deploy it and use the big motor. So see if that doesn't improve it. but I can tell you, prepare yourself, because it sounds like your transducer is that compass is beginning to fail. If you do that and then it still rocks back and forth, that's essentially what's happening, is it's beginning to fail. So prepare yourself for a transducer replacement.
Gotcha.
Unfortunately. Yeah.
Well, I guess it'll be the time to upgrade to the 34, right?
Yeah, no,
I mean, the 34s, I mean, same black box, right?
You
will have to do an update. You will have to actually do an update, because the 34, is 2020. If you haven't done an update since 2022, you're going to have to do an update, unfortunately, to recognize that 34.
Gotcha. Yeah. So yeah, Jordan, I don't know if you've seen it before, but I don't know if it'll. Let's see. There we go.
I see it.
Wait. Let it restart here. Here we go. Hold on. It'll restart.
Oh.
Gosh, dang it.
Like flipping, like it's trying to go back and forth, like it's not. Like
it's just rocking. Yeah, it's rocking. And that's the AHRS sensor inside of it, or the compass, people call it. It's not truly a compass. They call it that just for, but the other thing to work around is you can turn the AHRS off. It says right now use, and you can just turn that to off, and then all of a sudden your screen will just freeze, and then you'll have pitch angle that you've never seen before, and you can adjust that pitch angle and just make it match the bottom. So find somewhere that's a flat, and then make the bottom flat. And then the way I do is I drop a bait straight down, and that bait will fall straight down. Then we know I've got the pitch angle right. Because if I've got the bottom like this and I'm dropping a bait straight, it's actually going to drop the angle. Towards. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So make that bait fall directly below it. So that's a workaround. If you're fishing and it just fails, you can still fish with it by turning that off. But that's unfortunately, get prepared. You may have a little bit of time left, but you're on borrowed time, unfortunately.
Dang, that sucks. But super good advice though from a fellow who he's talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I appreciate that. So.
I've seen that a few times, to say the least.
Yeah, as soon as you started describing it, he was like, "Oh, which is good, but not super encouraging at the same time."
Yeah, I was like, "Oh no." Yeah, I was wondering. I'm like, "Oh no, what's this going to be?" I'm like, "Yeah, this one's easy, but not what you want to hear, unfortunately."
Right. Yeah.
Like that's the thing too, right? Like I was into like race cars for a while and whatever, and that's like a thing. Race cars are never done. Is your boat ever done? Like there's always something to upgrade, always something to fix, always something you want to change, or you get on the water. Oh, that would be nice to have on there. All that. It's just kind of a, like you said, spin out. You don't need to spin out. It's just part of the game, unfortunately.
And we as fishermen, I think, and I think as any hobby, it's golf. I used to golf quite a bit. I've got golf clubs sitting in my, I got fitted clubs. Like that's how much I used to golf. And I used to play old man soft. I call it old man soft pitch, slow pitch softball. I used to be a baseball player.
Yeah. Same.
Shoulder injury, ended that career, and slow pitch softball was where I could go swing a stick and feel competitive. I used to build like big mud rigs. Like I had a 74 K5 Blazer on 44-inch Super Swamper boggers. And, big block, 454. That thing was a monster, and it was mean and it was ugly. Her name was Mugly with an M, because it was a rust bucket, but boy, it was mud ugly. That's what someone said. It was butt ugly. And I said, no, it's mud ugly.
Yeah,
and then her name became Mugly.
A good name.
And I actually welded on the rear bumper, Mugly. I still have that bumper. But it's never done. It's never done. There is, listen, dude, I had a roll cage. I had an air locker up front, air locker in the rear, tires. I had double bead locks. I'd cut out recentered H1 Hummer wheels to match the whole 9 yards. Then I'm like, man, I want a doubler transfer case. I want it so I can crawl some of these hills. Then I'm like, man, do I really want to keep running these boggers? Because I like the mud, but they don't give you much side hill traction, because they're designed to go straight forward in mud, not traverse the side of a hill. And like, man, I need a bigger winch. I need this. I need that. And it's like anything. You just kind of do it. And sometimes you can do it all at once and you think you're done. Like, man, I'm going to buy this one thing. And I remember I got a great deal on the vehicle, great deal on the axles, great deal on the whole parts of it. Put it together and instantly said, I didn't have bead locks. I'm like, I need bead locks. Right now, I need bead locks. I just spent a bunch of money to put all that together as one purchase. I'm like, I'm done. I'll be able to do this forever, and I'll slowly but surely upgrade it. Nope. One trip out, I'm like, nope, I want bead locks. And so I got bead locks. And then I started blowing out hubs, and I was like, okay, well, I tried because I wanted to still be able to drive it on the street. Technically, swampers are street legal in the state of Oklahoma, which is crazy. But, it was awesome. I don't know if you're familiar with the 74 K5s, but they're fully convertible. They're not just like the half shell, like literally they come off all the way to the windshield. And so it was legit driving down the street to go to Sonic to get me a, lemon berry slush. Yeah. You would get pulled over all the time, and they would be very mad because my lights, my blinkers, everything worked, and I was street legal. They did not like that. But but your lockout hubs on the front, had a lot of torque, and they would get to spin, and all of a sudden they catch traction, and boom, them hubs would just blow out. Those lockouts would blow out. Well, then I went to drive slugs, and then I would start breaking stub shafts. Well, guess what? Then I went to chromoly, just it never ended. It never ended. And I enjoyed it, but it was a money pit. And fishing, by and large, is a money pit. I've got money pits sitting right behind me. I finally found me some. I can't get any of the hide ups. So I found one that some guys that have more time to fish than I do said that these are the closest they found to the hide ups in the 25 millimeter. I don't need those. I don't have time to fish. Guess what? I've got a pile of them sitting behind me,
Are you going to tell us what the closest to the hide up is?
Well, I don't know for sure. These are no wake labs, no wake bait labs.
Okay.
I think Axis 25 millimeter.
Okay,
but he's I can't find it. I thought I had his card sitting around, but it was no wake baits labs. And I'm not sponsored by any. That's just who it was. But I think it was called the Axis, and they feel good. They feel. Yeah. I've held one. I've held one hide up full cast in my hand, and I made 5 casts with it, and I broke off on a 7.5 pounder. Oh. And I said you're not responsible enough to own one of these.
Yeah.
So he sawed me off. He took off through some trees, and he sawed me off. And as soon as he did, I knew I was in trouble. And I couldn't get him turned. It was a big fish. It was a good fish. Yeah.
And I said, hold those full casts. They are massive. Like when you see them in person, they look. I mean, this looks goofy, but like the full cast is insane.
Well, here, I'm sorry. I went off camera. But no wake bait labs. Can you see that?
Yeah.
So they are definitely big.
Have you heard of this brand name?
I have not. No.
Yeah. That looks huge, massive.
For reference, I just have normal size hands, guys. I don't have some massive hands or tiny hands. They're just normal, but the material is good. I will tell you, I was experimenting with different hooks, and it sucked to try to push this through this bait. But anyway, that's a whole different animal.
That's the real question. You got to give it the old smell test.
Smells like TPE plastic. I mean,
right.
I want to play with. I don't know if anyone has. Maybe this is a secret that I'm about to reveal that someone's already doing. But I want to inject like bait fuel or some scent in it.
I thought that too, into the hole.
Yeah. I want to see if that matters. I don't know that it does, but maybe some of those followers that come up and then decided maybe there'll be a little bit more something. I don't know. Yeah. But anyway, that's it. That's that.
Talk to Justin. He knows bait fuel.
He does. That sucker. I said, Justin, when are you going to hook me up with some bait fuel? I know they send it to you in like just cases. Oh yeah, they do. I'll get you some. No, I've never seen a guy. I love Justin to death, but I've never seen a guy more stingy with baits in my life.
Really? That's
and here's the thing. Justin comes from he has had to work his butt off for everything that he's done in fishing, and didn't have the sponsors, but just believed in himself. Yeah. And I think he forgets sometimes, Justin, you're sponsored now. You've arrived. You're the Bassmaster Classic champion. Yeah. If you give me 1 tube of bait fuel, they're going to give you 20. That's not a big deal. So
Yeah,
so
that's like
I don't.
grandparents who are great grandparents, I guess at this point, who lived through the Great Depression and then came up on some money, but they go to a restaurant and they're taking, can I get a doggy bag for like one rib that's left over? Because they came from
Yeah,
a
not wasting it, right?
Yeah.
And so it's funny. I see him, and that just shows you who Justin is. He hasn't changed. Success has not changed him. He's the goofiest. I don't know if you've ever had a chance to meet him, but he's as goofy as you think he is. That is not an error. That's who he is in person. He's funny. I love him to death. I want to pinch his head off sometimes because he frustrates me to no end. But that's from a brotherly standpoint. Like your brother annoys you, and but he's awesome. So
yeah, we had him on the show after he won the classic. What was that? 24 when he won, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And we did everything from talking about mowing lawns to him crying on camera because like the feeling of winning, to him telling us he wants to invest in an adult toy company so he can get tiny vibrators to put in bait. And myself and Nate are crying on camera. We're laughing so hard that like we're not even saying anything for like 30 seconds because he's like in his southern, I need to get me some vibrators in the wood. I'm like, oh my God. And we're just dying.
That's crazy. The crazy part is he wasn't doing that to be funny. That thought has probably crossed his head. Like,
be a real thing.
Yeah, it's a real thing. That's just how his brain works. And I'm just like, where did you come up with this? But it is what it is. So
cool for sure. Well, Scott, thank you so much for being on the show, man. We'll end on that. That's a good.
Well, I think we should end on that, right? I think we should end.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
Well, guys, I appreciate you having me on. I had a lot of fun. I apologize. I don't know how long you normally talk, and I'm sorry if I went over. I do that.
No, I usually tell people like an hour, but that's like for them. Like if we want to keep on, always down. You know what I mean? Maybe we can back on sometime because this was a super fun conversation, and honestly, like
that was awesome.
I'll tell you this much, man, and like I'm not trying to suck up or blow your head up or whatever, but I think you and the Bass Tank are an absolutely perfect confluence of technology and nerdery, high level stuff, but you present it in a way that feels like anybody can understand it and anybody can use it, and that's huge, man. And so I think in that space, in the fishing industry specifically, like you're needed. So thank you for doing what you're doing, man.
I appreciate it, and because honestly, that is my goal. That is my goal, is to try to break this stuff down that for some reason makes sense in my brain. I don't know why, but it does, and to bring it to the everyday guy. I laugh because I'll get a call from an 80-year-old man having a problem with Livescope. I'm like, hey, send me a picture. The dude's out here using Livescope cannot send me a picture. I'm like, hey, is your 9-year-old grandson there? Yeah, he is. Give him the phone. Let him send me a picture. But I tell people, like, I can teach an 80-year-old man how to use Livescope. Yeah. So don't worry. Like it's kind of my fallback because it's true. And I mean that honestly. You can, if I can teach him to do it, I can teach you to do it. Just stay with me. We can walking. And I know we were supposed to end it here, but I'll just tell you this funny story. I had this older couple, sweet as all get out. Mm-hmm. And they're trying to update their unit using Active Captain. They had no SD card. I literally had to walk them through how to download Active Captain. And I sit there on the phone with them while they're literally downloading the update. And they had to walk up to the house to get on the Wi-Fi to download the update. Yep. And then they had to walk down to the boat because I had no Wi-Fi. They couldn't download. I spent about an hour and a half on the phone with them.
That's rough.
But you know what? Well, it was really funny to hear them talking back and forth. And, they weren't mad at each other, but you could tell they'd been married and they were in love, for a long time because he would like, stop it. I'm doing this and shit. Now hang on. You're doing this. He said to do this, it was so funny because they weren't mad at each other, but you could tell they were comfortable. Yeah. And the fact that the coolest part about it was we get done, their unit fires up, they're working. I can then hear them both just like the weight lifted off their shoulders because they were stressing about this thing. And they basically bought a 34, replaced it with the 32, and they needed to do the update because they wasn't recognizing the unit. And they were just like, we spent this money. And I think they had money. That doesn't matter. I don't care if that's the last nickel they had or they had it to burn. They spent their money. And I want it to work. And you could just hear the joy when they're like, oh,
Yeah.
We've got Livescope. And then it wasn't he was going fishing, they went fishing.
Yeah.
And it's a little, not to be all mushy, but this little stuff like that, dude, that makes it worth it. That makes it worth it. You know, I've got to meet some amazing people across the country. As you can imagine, people are like, Scott, if you're ever in this area, like you can stay here, which, and you know, but I'll tell you where to go fish, you know, and you don't do that by being a bad company, by a bad person. And I'm not saying I'm all this, I'm not trying to brag, but it makes you feel good because what we're trying to do is working. It is actually what resonates with people, because I want you to be able to feel like you can call me. You spent your money, call me, let me walk you through it, and let's break this down. And if I have to bring it down to start with, hit the power button, I've done that. I had a guy that could not get his unit to power up, could not get it turned on. And I literally had to explain to him, hit the power button. He bought Livescope.
Yeah.
And guess what? We walked him through it. I don't think his settings have changed. Since I set it up probably 3 years ago, because he's afraid to touch it, but that's okay. You know, the most random thing, this is a random fun fact about me, and I don't know why this is, but I'll have customers that will call in and they're like, hey, I don't know if you remember me. I bought something for you. And I'm like, yeah, you bought this and this and this. And I didn't look it up. Like, I just remember the name. Like my guys will be like, how do you know that? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. The only thing I can figure is, I'm not trying to brag, but I feel like when you care about what you do, you remember people. Now, I can't remember everybody, but I've remembered a lot more than I would have ever expected. You know, like, I don't know why. It's just because I love it. And I've had the opportunity to meet a lot of cool people. And, you know, I look forward to continuing to bring that type of information and trying to get it down to that level, you know, if you will. So I appreciate you saying it, because that's literally what I'm trying to do. So that means a lot, honestly. It really does.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I kind of look at the Bass Tank less as like a technology company, more like a solve problems for people who like to fish company, which is awesome.
You just use my slogan. The guys would tell you what I use at the office all day. I'm like, guys, we're problem solvers.
Oh yeah.
We're not a retail business. We're a problem solver. And the problem is either something's broke or a guy wants to upgrade his electronics, and we're here to solve the problem. Yeah. The problem is he doesn't know what he wants. So that's funny you say that, because my guys here probably get tired of me saying that. Guys, we're problem solvers. That's what we are.
Yeah, it just makes sense. It's like you know, like if Elon Musk with SpaceX is super complicated, like, you know, to most people that's a different language entirely, but you make it isn't really the right word, but you make it accessible, touchable, you know, humanable, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh crap, I actually can do this. And then you get on the water with like, oh my gosh, this changes everything. Because I say this on the show all the time. For me, forward facing isn't always about just chasing fish, but it's facing forward, like seeing where a weed line stops, seeing where there's a lay down, seeing where the drop comes in, and then knowing, oh shit, I need to up a little bit, or it just changes everything. Whether you're actually targeting specific hard return white dots that are moving around, or you're just looking for the edge of that, where that, you know, because sometimes you'll see a lay down and it underwater, it comes out to about 8 feet, and you hit it with your live scope. You're like, holy moly, this thing comes out like 30 feet underwater. And at the end of it, it looks like a Christmas tree just dotted with crappie. You know, forward facing is more than just chasing fish. It's solving a problem out front of the boat. It's awesome.
It is. And you know, and hitting that lay down, it shows you how to hit that lay down. Because if a lay down is like this, and I know that lay down's here, and I start hitting it this way, that's different than bringing it this way. You know, or, you know, the number of times that I've seen a lay down and know how to line up my cast. I can't even specifically see the fish, but I know because I fished and I've done my research, and I know the fish like to live underneath there.
Yep. And
I flip in there, and sure enough, donk, fish that I never knew was there, but I lined up my cast right. So it is, that's where it's a tool. And I will tell you this, even in the 42, the new version of Garmin, they did not include the feature of the fish jumping in the boat. So sorry, that feature is not in there. I know a lot of people think that was there with the 34. That was going to be not in the 42 either. So, you know,
have a little more time. We could talk about like Randy Blockett and some other we'll end it where we're at. And so God, thank you for jumping on, man. We really
absolutely, guys. Anytime, I appreciate you having me. Just let me know. Be glad to jump back on. This was fun.
That'll be great. All right, awesome. Bro. All right, Scott. We'll talk to you.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye. All right, that was Scott. Bass Tank. I tell you what, Nate, You ever have that feeling where you talk to somebody about something they're into? I think you could say the same thing for Dan from Big Mouth Fishing or whoever else. And you can't say it about everyone, but you talk to somebody and it takes about 1.3 seconds to realize that they're actually factually passionate about what they're doing.
Yes, no, that's absolutely the case. I think that passion shows with, kind of how when somebody says something about the bass tank, that everybody says the same thing and everybody says what their goal is. That's how you know you're doing something right. You know what I mean? And putting your passion into something is going to lead to you doing it right, and doing it the way you want to do it in the way that allows people all over the country. We're talking from Connecticut to, California, wanting to, consult and learn and buy products from Scott and the Bass Tank. You and I both have bought our Livescope units from the Bass Tank, for a lot of the reasons that we talked about tonight. So it's awesome.
Yeah, they're killing it. Like I said, they're a really perfect sweet spot of high level, nerdy, technical technology and presenting in a way that you go, oh, I could totally do this. Oh, that's how that works. Or, you know what I mean? Like not every technical thing has to have like you don't have to go to college to run a Livescope unit on your boat. You know what I mean? Like you can just go do it. And Bass Tank is like literally there existing, sitting to help you do that. And I don't know, for me, like I've learned as I've fished more in life, so much of fishing is about eliminating water and just not fishing spots that aren't going to produce. Like Scott said, whether that's map study, side imaging, whatever. And Livescope can do that too. Do you remember a couple of years ago, Nate, when we were fishing on the Chippewa Flowage in that 2-day derby? We'd never been on the water before, didn't really have time to pre-fish it. And we kind of figured out that they were hanging out on laydowns near weed beds, like weed, like grass lines. And we were able to eliminate so much time and wasted time by like going by, kind of scanning under it. You see something, flip in there, don't see anything, keep it moving. Cause that lake is, 20,000 acres and you don't want to waste your time fishing. Livescope's not the enemy. It's not the devil. It's not whatever the idiot box, whatever some dumb people call it. It's awesome. And to have a company like Bass Tank that can help you get it dialed in and to have the freaking owner, the guy who started it available to talk that's wild. Like that's crazy to me.
It is. Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. But again, it just goes to show his passion in his company and, what he wants to bring to all the customers that, that call in to the Bass Tank, not even purchase something from him,
Yeah, that's crazy, right? That's super wild. Let's do this, Nate. Let's save your story of your tiller motor till next time because this episode is longer than normal. But I want the whole story of you essentially taking what is your motor? It's a 225, right? It's not a 250.
Yeah, 225. Yeah,
225. Taking a 225 Pro XS and turning it into a hand tiller during a tournament. This should be a fun conversation. We'll save that for the next one. But otherwise, anybody listening to this, please make sure you do actually go out and support the Bass Tank, basstank.com. Follow them on the socials. They're in a really cool place in the fishing industry, I think, and I believe that they're killing it. I'm nobody. I don't have the swing or the influence that like, whoever Pang Rack or Luke Duncan or whatever has, but they have my full-throated endorsement, and I wish them nothing but the best. So until we catch you on the next one, don't forget positivity is always worth the effort. And thanks for listening.
Peace.
Peace.